Hello. How's it going, everybody? Hope you're all having a good time. Hope we're all having fun. Hope we're all enjoying each other's company. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. All right, guys. So, for everyone who's been waiting for me to talk about politics and culture stuff and everything that I was originally doing when I first started streaming, right? That's what tonight's gonna be. We're gonna have a fun little debate. I'm still maintaining my tenets of being charitable and being respectful. Not really sure what the environment's going to be. I think it's going to be kind of shouty, right? That's what we're expecting, but hoping that we can rise above, maybe get some fun, useful conversations out of here. I've talked to some of these people before, but not very many of them. I'm on my friend Tiberius's channel, so excited for how that's gonna go. Because I was on the after panel last week. It was really nice of him. I requested, I was like, yo man, I'm getting back in this, and if I join, he couldn't fit me into the regular panel. Didn't want to kick anyone out because that's rude. Just so you know. So I'm trying to be respectful there, not trying to, throw any elbows or swing clout around. Not that I have any clout, but so. So I really appreciate him letting me on for the after panel. Really enjoyed that, and now I'm excited to have this kind of conversation. So I'm feeling pretty good. I think I have a really solid perspective in regards to men and dating and men's rights, specifically and how they relate to making society a better place for dudes, right? Because as a dude, I like being happy. I want my fellow bros to be happy. And I think that there are certain things that the red pill and men's rights activists harp on that are real problems for men. And I'm comfortable saying that a lot of folks probably don't do the issue the justice or nuance it deserves. But I would also say that a lot of men's rights activists fall into some, let's not use SJW language, into some faulty behaviors that end up shooting themselves in the foot and making both their ideology and the supposed world that they want to create and the women they want to date not exist. So that's my big beef with a lot of red pillars, is that a lot of it doesn't really seem to circle back around. If you're, say, a conservative man and you want a good conservative woman, right? You probably don't want to spend your 20s, having as much sex as possible before settling down with someone 10 years younger than you, because you probably, had a lot of sex with those people that you're now looking to marry. So those are things that I want people to understand, that if you want some sort of world to exist, you should probably start embodying those values. And if you don't, then you either have to be in a very exceptional case, which most people are not, or you just have to realize that you're probably selling a lot of shit to people that doesn't really help them. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's kind of where I come up with the red pill stuff. I like the self-improvement. So sorry, 1 second. But, so, does anyone have any questions for me before we get started? So, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. I think it's gonna be some fun stuff. And we'll see I wanna see where everyone else really goes. I'm not sure. Yo, what's up, Alvaro? Good to see you, buddy. Hello, hello. Hope you're having a good day. Just for everyone's awareness, I do have multi-stream chat on, so we're going to Twitch and YouTube. So YouTube people, don't be afraid to say hello. Don't be afraid to say hi. And I hope you enjoy everything that we're doing. So I think overall it's going to be a productive stream. We're going to have fun. Going to have some memes. And we're going to have a good conversation about making people's lives better. That's the important thing for me. And that's an important thing, hopefully, to everybody else. If some people just want to scream and shit, then we'll be fine. But that's my goal. My goal is to make this a good one. So I hope everyone had a good week. I had a very tumultuous week, very busy. I streamed last night, which was good. Some people said I was really tired during it. It was. I woke up at 4 a.m. every day this week. And it's not a flex. It's more like I had so much work to do at work that I had to get there super early. And it was just, whew. I think I pulled a 15-hour day on Monday. Gross. Just some really important end of, quarter presentations and shit that had to go through. So, everyone's rushing so they can all go on vacation for Christmas and stuff. So everyone's like, we got to get this done. We got to go right now. And I was like, okay, guys. And so I pulled a 15-hour day on Monday, a 12-hour day on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday and Thursday were probably about 10-hour days. Probably, actually, 11 on Wednesday. But Thursday was only 10 hours, so that was pretty nice. And Friday was only about 6 hours, so that was also super nice. Everyone was like, all right, did we finish everything we needed? Everything was good. Let's all go home. So, and then I had a nice, relaxing stream with my friend Koala. Stay tuned. You're probably going to see more of him around. He's one of my best friends, and I love playing games with him. So, yeah. You're trying to get rank 45 on the Battle Pass on Overwatch 2, usually to generate stuff. Alvaro, my man, my duderino. What's up, Azurai? How's it going? Bada booby. How do you spell that? Bada boopy? I can't pronounce things. But so we are going to be vibing. We are vibing. We are living our best lives. So let's let everyone in the squad know that we're here. Oh, there we go. Looks like it's time to go. Oof. I've never been more afraid in my life. I am super fearful. Also, I don't really use slurs, so, but I appreciate the warning in advance. I'm also live. So. Was that a slur? Like, you're like, just want you to know, I'm up. If you want to say some slurs, like, was that the thing you were curious about? Oh, it was. Oh, ooh, we got some nukes going on. It's nuke time. Is that the new topic? It's like I personally I like big dummy head. That's one of my favorite slurs. It's specifically for people of the dumb race and class and orientation. So. Do I not look like a privileged white boy? I look like the Nazis grew me in a lab. Like, do I like? Thank you. I'm sure you're. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm not saying I agree with him. I absolutely do not. Guys, Nazis are really fucking bad. I don't know if you know this. I'm actually pretty progressive. But yeah, not a. I'm like, am I denying? Like, do you Yeah, are you disagreeing? Like, I don't think. It's like, oof. Oh. Thanks so much. Really appreciate this, Tiberius. Everyone, thank you so much for having me. If you don't know who I am, I'm Hanz of Farkir. I'm generally a really progressive guy, not more like just far left, not socialist, just general progressive, sock dem liberal sort of vibes. I'm really happy to be on this panel. I'm excited to talk about men's issues that are really important to me personally, because partially because I'm a man, partially because a lot of my friends are dudes, and I want men in America and men around the world to be happy people. So I'm ready to go. Good.
Doing good, man. I'm glad to have been here on this panel. Like, it's nice being back in the space. It's nice seeing some familiar faces and some new ones. What's up, Hans? It's been a minute.
It
Like,
has been a minute. How you been?
yeah. I've been pretty good, man. How you been? You looking fly?
Thank you. Do you like the glasses? They're blue light, and this is my favorite tank top, so I'm feeling good.
Looking fly. You looking nice. I can't wait to like talk about these topics. I like Tiberius's panels because like instead of like the shouty debates here, they're like kind of more like tame and like we actually can get towards the meat of the idea. So I'm really excited to be here. But right now I'm about to go grab my lasagna because I can smell that shit burning in the oven right now, and I'm like, I gotta go grab.
Go get it. Good to see you, buddy. Great to have you here. Next, he's been around the debate circuit for a while now, although he kind of babs and beebs within the debate. Excuse me, with the sphere. I cannot speak right now. I apologize. Rebooting this conversation. We've had him on the show before. Please welcome back Toby for Spirit.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how to debate. I just come in and say stuff. I like to understand everything. I like to communicate everything. I like to really get to the deepest meaning possible and connect with people. But debate, yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
Do you want to connect with me? Are you ready to connect?
Okay, I'm done. I'm good.
Okay, so this is probably going to be a bit of a meme episode, but the next, of course, he is a regular among my community. A lot of people know him. He is one of my mods. He is a person who has finally rediscovered the power of webcams, although he's just itty-bitty back down in there. Please welcome Twisted Aviator.
How you doing, Ty? Good to be here. Like Pyro was saying, I like your panels because they're actual discussions and not blood sports, so glad to be here for that.
Here, sir. Yeah, great to have you back here, sir. Apparently, my internet just cut out for half a second there, so that's always a good time. But last but not least, she is from the hellscape known as Canada. She is a marketing... she's a freelance marketeer and currently finishing out her education in that particular work. Please welcome Amanda.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing pretty good.
Excellent. It's so nice to see you guys. It's nice to be here and glad we're all on the same page about no blood sports.
We didn't say that.
Well, you know what? Listen.
Yeah,
right?
I don't remember a consensus here, okay?
If you want to debate about
Yeah,
debate,
Hanz is like, ooh, I don't know about that, dude.
I'm not.
Listen.
Safe.
All right.
Lasagna's safe.
Let's level out the playing field here real quick, and then we'll kick it off to you guys. First and foremost is that I try to keep it pretty chill here. I want to get to actual real conversations. I don't like this whole Democrats did this, Republicans did this shit. I'm going to end up shit in the ass. I don't bring you all here to have any conversation that you can find on any given panel. This is going to be a real conversation between real people. If I think you're bad faith, I will out your ass. I'm not having it. But most of you are invited because I hear very good things from you, the community, or I have a good relationship with you thus far. So all of you should be good, honest actors. I expect that I won't actually have to do my job in moderating very much. But if I feel like I need to, I will come into the room and, wrestle what I need to. I cannot talk again. But anyway, without further ado, I have two wonderful topics for you guys tonight. You all help me choose them as we do, so it should be something that you all want to engage with. The first one is, we're going to knock out the free speech one first, and save the best for last. So the prompt is pretty much simple. What does everyone think is the realms of free speech? And more particularly, what can you not say in public? What is the things that is just the no holds bars here where you're like, can't do it? First, we're going to have Twisted.
I don't think there's anything you can't say in public. I think free speech is, I'm kind of a free speech absolutist, because as abhorrent as things like, KKK rallies and that kind of stuff are, they still have a right to speak their piece in speech. That does not mean that they are immune from social repercussions for doing so. However, there should never be any kind of government laws enacted or anything like that to impede the ability of somebody to speak their mind, as terrible as we might consider their speech to be. Bringing it to the online space, I have a little bit of a quandary because, being a conservative, I don't want government intervention in business, and these social media platforms are businesses, but at the same time, they become our modern town square. And so it's a real quandary on, do we regulate these online spaces and their terms of service on free speech, or do we let them? And I go back and forth on that. I really have not made up my mind yet. I lean towards the regulation on it, or at least some sort of regulation where if you act as, moderating speech, you're not offered 230 protection, whereas if you allow the open exchange of speech, then you do have the 230 protection, right? So it's kind of where I stand on it.
I might subdivide this between category. Let's try to keep with free speech, and then if we want to talk about online speech, that might be like a good second half of the hour. I'm going to move it to Chris Speaks.
Yeah, I think that how the law works currently is sound-ish to me. You can say most things that you want to say, but if whatever it is that you say makes me feel reasonably threatened, I can start swinging first and claim self-defense. I think in terms of speech absolutism, there are just things that you aren't allowed to say, right? You can't yell fucking fire in a crowded theater, and I think there's a good reason for that. So if anything, I'd kind of just stick with what we have right now, and I think for the most part it works for the intents and purposes it's supposed to work for.
I appreciate that. Next, Toby.
Oh, yeah. So basically, you can say anything you want in public as long as you can get away with it. And I think that's the big key. There's different ways of doing that. You can be funny or shocking, or, you've seen people on the radio saying all kinds of stuff. I'm still looking for a way to get away with saying the N-word in public. I haven't found one yet. Obama becoming president seemed like a great intro, but that didn't fly too well. So, we just do other stuff. I try not to take things too serious, though, unless, someone is communicating that seriously. It's just either easier for me to dismiss a lot of stuff and just move on with things I want to do and enjoy.
All right. Next, Hanz.
I don't want to retread what a lot of people have said. I think Chris said it pretty well, that things right now, we seem to have a system of how we regulate things. I agree with Twisted in that in real life you can say pretty much whatever you want, but there are absolutely going to be social repercussions from that. So I think that's how we work in real life. I think the most interesting part of the conversation is going to be the online shift of how we deal with that. But for the moment, I also like, not screaming fire in a crowded theater. I think that if you say a bunch of horrible things to people on the street, that you can probably expect them to, get fresh with you. So I think that's more of a realistic expectation that every human being has in social society. And if anyone is a free speech absolutist and that there should be no repercussions for individual speech in person, like I promise that them and everybody else, if you get in someone's face enough, even though you're not touching them, if you're saying enough things, you're going to get swung on. And anyone who disagrees with that, you probably haven't been outside in the last 6 months. So, but
All right, this one's going to be a spicy one. All right, next one. We've got Pyro. You got to pass the bong, and then you can speak.
Yeah, I think when it comes to free speech, like pretty much everyone has the right take. Like laws are pretty much good the way they are. You shouldn't be able to do things that are going to incite a panic. For me, I don't want people to make direct calls to incite violence because, like, yeah, I just don't want to live in that society. But other than that, like, I think the laws we have on freedom of speech are pretty good the way they are. Like, you are able to criticize the government. You are able to pretty much say whatever you want as long as you're not doing those two things. Pretty good.
All right, thank you, good sir. And last but not least, right, Amanda.
Hello. I definitely agree with everybody, like most of the general takes here. I know that sounds terrible, but yeah, I think overall free speech in the Western world is pretty strong and protected, but there are a lot of reasonable things you can't say. I think at the same time, it's hard to avoid the online component of it these days, especially because the online world bleeds so much into the offline world. So I do think that it's a fair part to bring up because we do use these comments about free speech and how important it is. But to the point that was made earlier about the town square, absolutely, these places are like a town square, and at the same time, it's also a private business. So how do we sort of couple those things together? And the fact it's an international community online, so everybody has different idea of what they think free speech is. What?
You cut out for just a second there, but you caught back up. Did anyone else have that problem?
I did. Yeah, right at the end.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I heard her.
sorry. Talk too much. Basically, TLDR is just free speech is good. The problem is the internet and what we consider free on the internet, because there's a lot of debate because we come from different communities.
All right, gotcha. So I'm going to open it up, but I'm going to say that the rules for at least this segment is let's keep the online part off. Let's just talk about like general speech, and then we'll do online. So whoever wants to go at it, go at it.
I guess this would be we can start with Toby. And I know you want to say I know you want to say the N-word, my dude. All right, we all want the privilege to talk.
Oh, no. Never said I wanted to say it. Just trying to get away with it.
Just trying to get away with it. Okay, just see if we can. But this is, I would say that most individual, like interpersonal speech or online speech. I have nervous hands, so I play with this. This isn't like a weapon; it's a bottle opener. But
I feel threatened.
Yeah. But so for this, most things in speech are pretty interpersonal. Like I know there's some things that I can say at work that wouldn't fly, say, online. I know there's some things I can say around, my family that wouldn't fly online. I know the things I could say online that wouldn't fly around my family. I feel like at Christmas dinner, my mother probably wouldn't appreciate me talking, using, mega, ultra, super, like rape analogies, right, to explain an argument or disagreement with my father. So I would say for free speech in this, it really does require a knowledge of who you're around and what company you want to keep and what communities you want to be a part of. And if we want to encourage changing of speech, which I think people do pretty well, is by saying certain words probably aren't okay, and we should start discouraging the use of them. And I would say there is a problem offline. I would say that a lot of people in this space have, is that if you're not caught up with the most specific lingo of how to, say, be politically correct, then you could probably catch some heat from either your friends or your coworkers. Like I work with a lot of people in my job that are in their, say, 40s and 50s, right? And so they don't know what the word ableism means. They don't know, they should know not to say, like the R slur. And so for a lot of them, it is something you have to slowly nudge people into and help them grow out of. So as long as we do that, I would say that's okay. I think there's issues with, say, socialization, that if someone starts talking that really hurts a member of your group, you need to deal with that right away. But I have seen people lose friends or cut people out because they don't have the proper language to exist around them.
Yeah.
And that's, and I would say something that's limiting free speech now is that a lot of people are incapable of dealing with people who have different lexicons than them, and they assume or they hear something that's, oh, this wasn't okay in my space, but it was okay in somebody else's space, and they might have two different definitions, but it's the same word, so that it hurts people, but also we don't fix the problem.
Yeah, so I'll respond quickly if that's what you're meaning, and then other people can say stuff. Which is, yeah, there's definitely a maturity to it. I'm not trying to eliminate any words from anybody, though. I'm trying to like just get them to be real with me and be who they are, or, you know, be responsible. I hate political correctness, but I do really respect know your audience. And I've been with friends in real life where someone will say a word or a bad joke or something else, and another person will become very offended at it. And I look at it instantly like, which one can I move off of this? Which one needs more correction than the other? And how can I get them back in talking about it so it doesn't really matter so much? So I focus a lot more on being able to come back from mistakes, because stepping on toes is a lot of like socializing and so forth at different times. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It does remind me, though, I think that for some people, that the whole conversation does take a bit of a turn. It reminds me of the fact that my friends, I was playing Mario Kart with some friends maybe about 6 months ago, and I was very frustrated. I turn into the most offensive version of myself when I play Mario Kart, so that's like the warning there. But I was frustrated by, Mario won, and I'm salty about that. So it was an NPC character, and I called him a wop. And for the context for me, it was I was raised in a really like probably maybe a little bit like offensive European immigrant community. So there was lots of different slurs that were tossed around, but at the end of the day, there was a difference between just saying something and then actually acting on it. And there was a huge part of like, you make jokes, you say offensive things with your friends outside when you're playing, but you don't bring that home when like you're eating dinner with the family, and like you want to show that kind of respect. So I think it's interesting because when we have the conversation about free speech, there's a lot of like, you can't say that, but we're talking about the words, but we're not ever talking about the actions. And like, there's a huge difference between what people say and what people actually do and act on. And I think that like that always gets lost in the sauce, because I love like the Italian community that I was raised in. Like there's no disrespect there, but a bunch of random people on the internet that I'm playing video games with don't know that. They don't know that context. So it's interesting, because I think that like you're always gonna like, everybody's gonna get caught in the crosshairs at some point.
Yeah, it's just I think the
mafia?
problem that we
Sorry.
have with I think that the problem that we bump into is if we wanna act like having a gamer moment should be acceptable, then what you bump into at some point is that the reason why that can't be acceptable is because for as long as it is, we keep having those gamer moments, right? Like we all use certain language for a reason, and I can appreciate as much as the next guy that in a certain context I might say a racial slur without attaching the same racial meaning to it that let's say somebody from America might, right? Seeing how I'm not American, but the problem is that we can't simultaneously pretend like there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I was fairly alt-right and I was very insular when I was a kid. I used to have an incredibly negative relationship with pretty much just women in general, right? And whilst I was in that mind space, there used to be a type of language that I would employ to get my point across that I didn't think there's anything wrong with. But the vast majority of the population did and do. And I think there's value in the fact that they do, right? Because I don't have to agree with everyone on this panel why the N-word is bad, so long as we agree that the N-word is bad, and maybe we shouldn't just fucking sling that one out there when we get shot in the head and see us go.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think certainly for me, not gonna argue in favor of using the N-word publicly. I stick to Italian slurs. Okay, there's a difference. I'm joking.
I wanted to ask what communities.
I just want to say that I'm going to reclaim the Italian slurs, okay? And I don't give you the pass.
Oh, stupid.
So,
Okay.
no
What are you
pass
gonna do?
yet, Amanda.
Okay. Well,
Twisted, you're so small over there. I can't see you.
I made myself bigger. Hold on, I don't want to cover everything up on my stream. Okay,
I
there
You're
think-
we
such
go.
a handsome man. Why would you do this? All right.
I am dead sexy.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
All
Which,
right.
I
which is
appreciate
why
you
we
being
need.
smaller. Like, is that way? It's it's taking less attention.
I don't want to
I can't
distract the
compete.
panel by being large, right?
Oh my god. All right, so Twisted, I figured that you would want to throw down on this one pretty big. So spice it up for me a little bit, because I know there's some more free speech absolutist takes that you got in here, where it's like, hey, risk being offensive, that kind of thing. Not
Well,
on this
yeah,
panel.
I
but you know what
mean, yeah, I like to meme. I like to be edgy. My stream tends to go that way. I do refrain from using actual slurs and things like that, but I definitely push the envelope a little bit. And it's no offense meant to anybody. It's just my brand of humor, right? And I meme about everything. I don't care. It's kind of like the old joke, I'm not racist, I hate everyone equally. But it's not. I don't hate anyone, aside from maybe my ex-wife. But when I say free speech absolutist, I don't necessarily mean, okay, let's go into the airport and yell, Allahu Akbar and bomb, and or go into the mall and do,
Do not say bomb in an airport.
Right, exactly.
Just see what happens.
Right.
Try it once.
Unless you're loading your aircraft up with some JDAMs to drop.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when I say free speech absolutist, I think I kind of actually agree with like Hanz and everybody, where current laws are fine. If you're inducing a panic, yeah, you should have repercussions for that. But if you are a far-right neo-Nazi and you want to stand on the courthouse steps and talk your bullshit that everybody hates and incur the wrath of the crowd around you, and whatever repercussions wind up happening, you should have that right to do so. No government entity should say no to you for that, and vice versa. If any other ethnic or any other group wants to do so, they should be able to do so as well. So that's my meaning of free speech absolutism. I don't really mean absolute as in there are no repercussions, nor do I mean that there should be no laws against inciting violence or that kind of thing.
I think.
So yes.
Pyros have it.
I think the one thing, because like we're, no offense to anyone here, we're like circle jerking trying to find the point of the dick right now, and it's kind of funny to watch. I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to like because like we wanted to separate it from like the real world from the online world, save the online bit for the end because that's gonna get spicy. I think when it comes to like real world shit, one of the biggest things I run into, like when talking about serious shit and like, the free speech and how you're not allowed to say certain things, is a lot of people, they talk the big game. They say, oh, you can talk about the things and like, I won't get offended and whatnot. And like, they'll hold it. And then like, the moment they get pushback, that's the problem. They don't know how to take the pushback. And for me, it's like, maybe don't take the pushback so personally. Like if we're just having a conversation, I say, yo, I don't necessarily think you're right. There's no reason why that needs to become an argument, because it's not like online spaces where there's like a Twitter thing and whatnot, because those type of arguments don't happen in real life. In real life, they get like, they're a bit more serious, especially if it's like someone with like a family member at Thanksgiving or like a coworker, someone you have to see every day. Like people need to learn like work around ways of having disagreements. And, there's shit that people want to talk about, especially within the last few years that people have started talking about more. And like, I don't necessarily like in some of the things I'm seeing where like people are getting, reported falsely to HR in my area and shit like that. People are trying to use certain company policies to get other people fired for like small disagreements when it's just a conversation, bro. Like don't take the disagreement so seriously. So like for me, that's kind of the problem that I personally see. Like people don't know how to just disagree and then walk away.
It's really hard. I mean, it is. I agree wholeheartedly with you, Pyro, and I know it is really easy to say don't take it seriously, and it's a good place to start and stuff. until it comes up with them, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to own your own projections or your own triggers or whatever. I mean, for me, one of the things I like to do is when I go into like a new workplace is see how quickly I can establish trust and I can get away with saying fuck with them and get them to say it back, because it's just kind of a bonding type of thing to know that we connect as people and that if they have a problem, they can come to me and talk to me about it. So that's the other side of it that I really try to do, is extend that far out, that if somebody needs to yell at me, give me a second and then you can yell at me and I'll let you do that, or say anything you need to me so that we can talk about it and work through it.
Well, and I think one thing that, we're talking about having a conversation around free speech, but I think being able to have a conversation in general is something that is seems to be fading in our society today. It becomes, oh, I'm offended, I'm going to yell at you, and because you're yelling at me, I'm going to yell back, and it just degrades. You can't ever come to any kind of a compromise or convince somebody of your position, or even just explain your position if all you're doing is yelling and throwing insults back and forth and all that. Sure, there's time for memeing even on any panel and everything, but in the end, if we don't have conversations, things are not going to get any better, and they're just going to get worse.
All right, I'm gonna throw some. Yeah. I want to throw a grenade for just a second. Twisted. I think some of what you said earlier is relatively naive. I want you to give me stronger limits or clarifications on what you mean by people can say whatever they want on the steps. And there are repercussions. What do those repercussions look like? Because I don't think we would. I think we probably agree. Like, we're not killing somebody, right? Like, oh, you said the Nazi thing. But what does that? Yeah, right. So like that's an important thing. Like, if we're saying things aren't free from consequences, then I would say, like, in a world where we could say anything you want, but someone might fucking kill you for because they disliked what you said, then there's
someone might kill you for anything, right? I mean, it happens.
But it decentivizes speech, right? Like, if you said, I love you're like an airplane, right? You said, like, I love airplanes. I'm like, I fucking hate people who like airplanes, and I just fucking dome you. Like, I think everybody else, like, who likes airplanes would be pretty fucking quiet about how you have, discussions about airplanes when Hanz is around. So, what do you? I'm asking more for boundaries, right? Because I agree with you that, like, it's a good concept of having this space where we can say things, and I agree with you that there should be some consequences. I'm asking, from your view, what are the boundaries of these consequences, right? Are we saying, like, someone's going to give you, like, the finger? Is someone going to, call you a slur in return? Or is someone going to punch you in the face? Or someone's going to shoot you, right? Like, those are very different consequences. So I'm asking, like, what do you think are the bounds of what consequences are acceptable in regards to, like, responding to speech?
Well, I'm obviously not going to say that somebody should shoot you or punch you in the face. I mean, give you the finger, yell back, yell slurs back at you, anything that would be, the consequences would be within the bounds of the law, as in, you're not doing another, a criminal act upon that person.
But what if you're inciting violence? What if you said that the Pink Shirt Clan, of which I am a proud member of, are a race of degenerates,
sexy man,
and they must be, like, exterminated from the earth. If you're talking about that, how can I respond?
Well, that still falls under bounds of law, because you can't incite violence or incite panic. That's already illegal.
You're telling me we can't say that that white people aren't terrible, or we can't say
Hanz, you're right. We can say things like that. We can allude to certain groups and say, like, yo, I just think that they should maybe be removed from the country. What we can't do, and this is where it gets legal, is we can't say, yo, I fucking hate Joe Biden, somebody actually go play video games with him. We can't say that. That's, like, straight illegal. If I said the actual thing, I would have gotten a, like, email from the FBI and being like, yo, the fuck is up, buddy? You can't directly say you need to go actually do. You can allude to exactly the FBI open up. So, like, I think when it comes to consequences, the way I look at it is, like, I don't even go so far as, like, throwing hands or anything. I'm like, yo, if it's going to cause, like, a really fantastic argument, if it's going to cause a scene, maybe I should like try and reword it differently. Maybe I should, because like that's my thing. I don't want to cause a scene in public. I don't want to have like motherfuckers stop and look at me and like take their video cameras out, and then I'm the motherfucker online like having the scene in fucking Bagelton, New York, you know, because like I'm a short man or some shit like that. Like, you know.
And that would be one of the consequences would be that your ridiculous position would be exposed online, or you know, those are the kinds of consequences. I'm not talking about, you know, suspending the laws against punching people in the face randomly just because they said something.
Right. So
there's already laws against, you know, shooting people in the head or beating them down because they said that I hate pink shirts.
I gotcha. Amanda, what, you were gonna say something?
No, I mean, it just makes me think so, like, it kind of just sounds like the same thing everybody would say, which is we support free speech, but within reason, and the within reason is not inciting violence or destruction to those groups. Like, it's one thing to, like, say a statement or to make a pejorative stereotype about somebody, and it's offensive and it's wrong, but it's another thing to say that pejorative stereotype needs to die or needs to be put somewhere that's not here. Like, that would be within the reason of like where free speech should stop, I feel like. Because even in the case of my little Mario Kart story, like, I'm not saying Mario should die. I would like him to keep going after Peach. You know, we need those franchises. I need Mario Kart, Mario Party 11 and a half or whatever the fuck. So like, it's a different conversation than the other.
Right, but then so I guess the question like goes for that then is, if someone isn't directly inciting violence against a group, but it will cause, say, a substantial amount of harm against a group, would you start considering that as a limit on the speech? Like, if, let's say, I think one of the best examples currently would be someone saying, hey, I don't think trans people are real, right? And if they said that, and then they said, and because of that, I think we should never give any children any puberty blockers or anything like that. And because of that, they're pushing policies to do that. And if you say you're on the left, then you'd be like, oh, hey, because of doing that, you are actually contributing to the systemic, say, suicide and mental depression of trans people. But if I'm on the right and someone says, oh, hey, you know, we need to be giving like drugs to these children because this is like the doctor recommended way of like dealing with gender dysphoria, I think people are, you know, actively harming kids and pumping them full of hormones that they shouldn't be pumped full of. So in those cases, we can see that in our worldview from either of those sides, you're directly harming a group, but you're not saying kill them. You're just saying we're going to make their lives statistically worse to the point where, you know, they might consider suicide more, or they might, you know, have issues growing up more. They might have issues socializing more. So I feel like there are these lines where, and obviously, like, to be like, for the purpose of the analogy, I actually do, you know, I support puberty blockers for children and that sort of stuff. But so the question is like, so what do you do with those groups, right? We don't have to talk about that right now, but like, I'm just saying, like, there are conversations like that. So how do we deal with that in regard to speech?
Well, to me, that's not causing harm. Harm would be, I don't believe in trans people. So if you see a trans person, dome them, right?
Yeah,
that's harming them.
I think
indirect harm is anything you say can cause indirect harm. If we start limiting that, I hate to use the slippery slope thing because it's so overused, but it really is. You know, like, you know, those are opinions that, in your opinion, it causes harm to say that don't give children puberty blockers. In my opinion, giving puberty blockers causes harm.
Right, which is like why I did the specific analogies. Like we
can't limit the speech to create these ideas, because we'll never wind up having the conversation and meeting somewhere in the middle to have a compromise on what do we do about this issue.
I think in the case of the trans one, it's a very unique and unique in scope, and the conversation is definitely different depending on the area in real life that you exist in, because trans people don't have the same rights across the board, unfortunately. But I think, sort of to your point, and sort of a broader one that like connects to me more deeply, because it's been happening here in Canada, but there's been a rise of anti-Semitism, hate crimes that are happening in the country. A lot of people are spray painting swastikas and stuff on temples and in communities that are predominantly Jewish. And in terms of the hate speech conversation, that seems to be from what I understand of history in the world, like a much more common sort of trajectory of hate in a very common community that has experienced it. So in the case of like, if you were to like, there's one thing to be anti-Semitic and say stuff. It's another thing to sort of go out of your way to put the intention that you really do hate those people. So I would say, like, in terms of where the hate and the free speech lie, like going up to like a temple and putting a swastika on it, to me does symbolize a level of hate and harm to a certain community. I don't see the trans conversation in the same light, but to pivot, since we were talking about Nazis earlier, I got to keep with my brand. But I do think that when it comes to that conversation, it's really like pivoting, like is it becoming a detrimental harm to like larger society? And in the case of the Jew thing, like it can be a problem.
So
I can't speak to the trans part.
Ty, this is like directly goes into line with this. Can you mind if we broaden it to online? Because I have a very specific question for Amanda.
Yeah, go ahead and do that, because I've got 2 questions I want to ask the panel, but we can do that as the closeout, so go for it.
I love it.
So for this one, right, saying something negative about a group then, right, it seems to be something that we're all tacitly okay with as a part of speech, realizing there might be social issues with that. Like, say, for Kanye, right, he's said in several interviews, right, where it's like, Jewish people control X organization, right? He's not calling to violence for them, but he's alluding to a specific conspiracy. And most people would say that this is, verging on like, a level of actionable anti-Semitism, that we're putting this back into the cultural zeitgeist. So for that sort of thing, are you okay with, with figures or large celebrities or anyone with, with a big enough megaphone in public, like screaming about, Jewish people, or putting, the 6-pointed Star of David, like, merged with a swastika, on their multi-million like Twitter follower profile? What do we do in regards to that? Because the big problem I think what a lot of people have with stochastic terrorism is that you have people making like the lower statements, like Pyro was talking about, but they're not making the end statement. But we would still say those probably cause harm.
I think that.
Sorry, 1 second, Twisted. I was asking Amanda specifically.
I'm sorry. I thought you were asking in general.
You can jump in.
I apologize. Yeah. Sorry, Amanda.
No worries. When it comes to the conversation of Kanye, as it's one I seem to be I cannot escape. But when it comes to Kanye, I think the first and the top criticism that he was making is a statement that I think anybody should unpack. He has a lot of history in the music industry himself. He's very familiar with how the industry works. And I think that there are lots of different communities that have predominantly been in certain areas. And the problem is that we take the actual concern, like in the same way that we get concerned when there's too many white people in positions of power, and instead just focus on, well, you can't say it, so then it puts Jewish people in this weird protected class where you can't make any criticisms, but at the same time, you need to be very cautious because the Holocaust is very real and there's a lot of people who have really suffered from it. So I think that at the same point, you should be able to like look at Kanye's statements and analyze that like he's within his right to have a disagreement about this, but at the same time, since he is a person in power, he is playing a very dangerous game. I think in the case of Kanye, it's a very specific context. I think there's a lot of mental health there. But when you look at how it has affected the larger majority afterwards, there were people who were doing swastika salute, doing Nazi Hitler salutes on like highways and like banners and stuff. So obviously it had an impact. But I think that it doesn't. It means that we should take like people in positions of power statements with a grain of salt and understand where they're coming from. It doesn't mean that they should be barred from making the statements. I think Kanye, like anybody else, is fair to make his statement, and we're also fair to say that he's going through something, and maybe like we should unpack that statement, but also understand the larger context that he's had a very, very tumultuous past couple of years.
I'd like to jump in when possible as well, although I know that Pyro has had his hand up for quite a while now.
Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Pyro, then Twisted, and then Chris. I think that'd be fair. So please get through that as quickly as you all can.
Okay, let me take as slow as possible. In fact, let me reload the bonk. Let me stop. I think in the conversation about like especially when we move it to like the online space and whatnot, for me, the answer is just, like Yeah, as long as they're not making direct calls for violence, like, yo, we should go and do, like they were doing with the Tops Buffalo shooting, where it came out that, like, on, certain forums and Reddit, like, this was planned out in advance, like, and the dude was asking for advice and guns and shit, and, like, they knew they were going to do it. If there's not, like, direct calls to violence like that, or it's not, like, yelling fire in an airport and trying to fake a terrorist threat or a bomb threat, like, yeah, on the internet, they have the right to. I don't think the government should get involved with that. Public platforms and their terms of service, however, go fucking ham. Like, if y'all don't want this shit on there, I don't think it's obligated that y'all have it on there. That's what happened with Ye and shit. Like, he said all this horrible anti-Semitic shit, and then, like, a lot of people just kind of fucked him up, and, like, he's not being platformed in a lot of spaces that he was beforehand. He's not getting the love and support that he thought he would be getting from this shit. It's sick or not, like, dude's anti-Semitic as fuck, and, like, he's getting the consequences of it. He's being relegated to Alex Jones in a gimp mask. Fucking what's the fucking dude's name? Proud Boys guy. He's being sat down at this dude's wooden table in a garage somewhere. So, like, he's not really doing as well as he was. So it's like, we can have those consequences be enacted without, like, stepping over the bounds when it comes into law with, like, freedom of, like, once you get there, like, I think it will be a slippery slope. And I say that as someone on the left. Like, conservatives will be banned, and then a lot of leftists will be banned, and, like, shit's gonna go wrong with that.
Twisted.
Well, and I kind of want to address the Hanz asked the question of what do we do about somebody like Kanye. Well, I think we see what we do about it. He's lost his sponsorship roles with different manufacturers. He's had, like I said, social consequences. What he said. There is no way in hell he should be limited on what he says, but he's reaping those consequences. So, I think to answer your question, what do we do about somebody like Kanye? Well, look at Kanye. That you can get that answer right there.
Are you okay with that in the case that, like, what if it was you? Let's say you blow up tomorrow and you're now like a 10,000 viewer streamer, right? And you, like, make millions, but you're not like, say this is like income that you have to keep streaming to attain. And then you said, like, we're not going to go into it, but, like, specifically say, like, your position on, like, the trans issue, you lose everything. You get banned off Twitch, you get banned off of YouTube, you get banned off of Twitter, you get banned off of Facebook. Everything, your thing is gone, and the platforms all agreed to that, right? Like,
no, I do not. I know
you disagree with that question, like the position, but I'm saying, like, if your position becomes, say, so morally taboo in regards to how these companies feel. Are you okay with that being the consequence of your speech, right? In the same way that if I got 10,000 viewers, and I'm, the pro beauty blocker position, and say Elon Musk buys YouTube and Twitch and everything else, and then he nukes me, am I supposed to be okay with that?
No, I'm gonna.
How is that different from Kanye?
I am not. No.
Sorry.
Let me finish. Yeah. I am not. My stand. I told you I go back and forth on the idea of government regulation on the platforms, and because being conservative, I don't want government involvement. But because they have become this public town square, I always feel like we need government regulation on that. So would I be in favor of you being banned, me being banned, or anything like that? Absolutely not. I don't think anybody should be deplatformed for their position.
Okay, so you can be.
However,
you can be deplatformed.
However, let's say that I'm streaming about aviation. I get a sponsorship from Cessna, and I say some off the wall shit that Cessna says I don't want to be associated with that position. Should I lose my sponsorship? Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just clarifying. So don't deplatform, but people can cut business ties with you as long as they're, like, not a platform. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get Chris back into this because we haven't heard from him in quite a minute.
Right, yeah. I think oftentimes we talk about the ability to talk about something or whatever it is that you want without really the requirement or the conversation about the responsibility that you have to talk about it. So I'll take you guys on a journey into my very, very colorful past, okay? The colorful past of somebody who was on the alt-right and incredibly fucking racist, okay? I speak two languages fluently, and in none of them I can construct a sentence that will sufficiently explain to you how fucking vile I used to be, okay? So, that being said, let's fucking go. I used to firmly believe and listen to people talking about 1350, for instance. Those unfamiliar of you is the idea that black people being 13% of the population commit like over half of the violent crime. Now, the problem with that is that, not that that is inaccurate in and of itself, is that people who preach that type of rhetoric never fucking go into any of the detail as to why that is happening, who has caused that to happen, what is like the historical background. None of that is ever spoken about. What is spoken about is the idea that we assume that because that is the reality, black people are somehow worse than everyone else. And that is what happens every time you allow for speech of that sort to go as long as it wants in like any way that it wants. So when you want to use the example of Kanye or like the online the online sort of stuff, when you say that Jewish people hold a disproportionate amount of power, I acknowledge that that might be a reality of things. But what you haven't told me is why that is the reality of things. What are the historical considerations that have led to that being the case? But when you tell me that you're ready to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, I don't know what I can take from that other than the fact that you're anti-Semitic. And if you look at what's been happening in Twitch ball, online spaces in recent history especially, you've got fucking big lefty lunatic content creator cunts who are labeling small people as Nazis or fascists haphazardly, and a wave of hatred is sent their way for no good fucking reason. And the advocacy of free speech absolutism ensures that outcome. Shit's complicated enough as it is when it comes to speech, and I don't like the idea that I should be allowed to say whatever it is that I want, because I guarantee you that you give me 3 weeks and enough Monster Energy drinks, and I'll be able to fucking spout rhetoric so vile that I'll make plantation owners blush, okay?
Oh, just play Mario Kart with me. Don't even worry about it.
Anytime, okay? Anytime.
So I guess,
And you should be allowed to spout that rhetoric that's vile. I mean,
No.
My simple point is like the government shouldn't be knocking on your door because you said some like spicy shit without calling. If you want to spout all of the 1350 Confederate Nazi Uncle Ruckus stink meaner ass shit you want to, you go ahead. You call us a bunch of cooney baboonies. You call us all the Uncle Ruckus shit from fucking Boondocks. That's a quote from the Boondocks.
Well, hey, you still gotta be careful, dude. It's still Twitch. Like, I love you, but come on.
Listen, you go ahead. You should have the freedom to do that. He brought it up right. It's still Twitch. If Twitch wants to say, yo, fuck you, you just said that, like, one, I'm sorry, Tiberius, that's on me. Like, I apologize if that happens to you. But, like, it's Twitch's decision to do that. It's their decision to make that choice. My thing is, when it comes to free speech, I'm not a free speech absolutist. My thing is, like, yo, the government shouldn't be coming to knock on your door because they deem shit, like, to be a problem. Like, we can describe what the problem is, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with us coming to the conclusion. I'm fine with Twitch doing it. Like, the government, nah.
I sympathize with that position incredibly deeply, because it's kind of what I keep bumping across. My problem, however, is that in today's day and age, a lot of these online spaces become the equivalent of what we used to have as the town square. And I don't know how to put together the idea that you should be able to, like, the government doesn't have a say in telling that you can't say this, with the fact that platforms can, when these platforms became our main mode of communication, especially when it comes to things like election cycles or like anything politics related.
Well, I mean, like, even in the town square, like, even in the normal physical meat space, like, I can't exactly go around my workplace screaming about how the Jews run everything, and they're the reason I didn't get paid as much as I want, and they're the reason I lost my girlfriend, and, like, it's all, like, even in, like, normal space, there's still shit that can't be said.
But
it's the online space that flips that.
Your workspace isn't the quote unquote town square that these online platforms.
I'm talking about meat. I'm talking about meat space in general.
Right.
Like, but I just use my workplace as an example.
You can stand on the sidewalk and say anything you want, right?
Look, can I?
Nobody's going to take you seriously.
Yeah,
I would also say
they will split to avoid.
I'll add this, and I am more than happy to take any criticism on this because I don't spend as much time in maybe righty spaces as I should. I am yet to meet somebody who deeply believes in anti-Semitic ideology for whom that belief doesn't overflow into other elements of their life. Like, I am yet to meet somebody who's like perfectly fine, like everywhere across the board, and then online they go into fucking full-on Hitler mode.
I think online I I do think that there's a little bit of a disconnect that still exists because so much of online space for people, it seems to be a meeting ground that they can't have offline, and I think that that's very important. So people will show a different side of themselves online that they might not necessarily do otherwise. But I also think that that changes depending on the level of like if you're just kind of an observer online versus if you're like doing anything publicly, whether it's a stream, posting videos, like anything that you want sort of the general public to care about. But I think that we're sort of dancing around it. But if I could just sort of push us through the door on this one, I do think that to pivot the conversation of free speech into the online space is very fair and very warranted at this point, because it seems very clear that like post 2016, you can't just have your online presence separate from your offline presence, because so much of the conversation that you have online ends up bleeding offline, especially when it comes to politics. So the thing there that I think is interesting, like we all want to say free speech, yada yada, but the problem is that like these are all private corporations that have monetized speech so that we can sell it back to you as a product and market it. So like for me, I'm jaded because I work in this industry, but none of this is free. It never has been free. And so I don't come into these spaces with the expectation that like this is a lovely little like democratic free lib cuck cornucopia. I just see this space as like a utility purpose and then I leave. But I think that I'm a minority in that, and that most people still have these sort of like weird ideas about what they think that the online world is. And I think the problem comes in the fact that we want to say, yes, free speech in a place that is privately made decisions by corporations and people in boardrooms that are just interested in maintaining attention so that they can sell ads off you. So I will
sympathize with a lot of that deeply, because I genuinely don't like the fact that we have gotten, especially in Twitch out of all the places, to a point where because we are so quick at banning certain types of speech that like you actually can't come in and ask a genuine question because the just asking questions archetype is now seen as a dog whistle. I just don't think that the answer to that is to allow you to say whatever the fuck it is that you want.
Well, to address what was said about online spaces and public spaces being the same for people, I don't think that's true. I think that even for streamers, there's a degree of anonymity online that opens up people to give their more controversial takes. I think that maybe they wouldn't do. What do you mean
by what do you qualify as anonymity in this case?
Without a lot of effort, people are not going to be finding out, your financial status, where you work. Now, bigger streamers, but they can. But like us, they can, but the chances of it happening with a smaller platform person is pretty slim. I mean, it can happen, of course.
I understand the point. I definitely don't see it as I have family that works in privacy and security, so it feels like this is there's a whole other world with data breaches and security breaches that's just kind of like a sort of a mirror away from everybody. Like, and we're only safe until we piss somebody off who knows how to get
that's
on this
true.
stuff.
That's very true.
If I can just clarify one thing, because I don't know if that was in reference to what I said, but I've never said that these places are the same. I'm saying that our behaviors tend to
it's probably me.
Places.
It was Amanda. It was Amanda's point, not yours, Chris.
So specifically, sorry, Ty. I had one more question, but if you want to go forward and ask.
Well, maybe someone's going to ask the question that I actually want to see on the panel, so I'm just going to ask it myself. Is one of the problems with the internet is that it does provide an atmosphere or an area of consequence-free speech? Because if you're out on the street, if you're out on the sidewalk, you say something, somebody, your neighbor, somebody who's passing by can hear you, and you will suffer consequences if you say some dumb shit. But you actively can build out a community online that makes it to where you probably can't, because you can LARP around people that are quote unquote fellow Nazis or communists or whatever that believe in the things you do. Is that actually kind of the problem?
Definitely.
Yeah, there's no.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bigger problem. It's a big problem because of the no accountability, but just about the way the internet works, right? Like, fuck the racism and the Nazism for a point. Let's just talk about TV shows. People are fans of everything, alternate history, really weird book, like sexual erotica and shit. And you can find communities dedicated to each and every one of these groups with sub-communities tailored to each and every specific interest in these groups. And that's what the internet is. And then when we bring in shit like fascism, racism, misogyny, all of this terrible shit that we know exists, it's existed 50 years before the internet. Now we're seeing the effect on that where it's like, oh, now they get all of their little enclaves and shit like that. That's why I think it's like, yeah, it is kind of like the public square, the internet is, except for now we get to just go inside and talk about it. We don't have to do it on Twitter when we can do it in our private little Reddit blog, or we can do it in our own little Discord and talk about the racism and have our own little conservative enclaves and our own little liberal enclaves. We can form our own communities that are just we don't even have to interact with each other, honestly. There are points in times where the conservatives and the liberals have no idea where each other are at, and they're just on completely different pages. And I think that's a big problem because it's hard to communicate like that.
Just to build up on that one even more, I would say it's a huge problem, and what we've been doing as like the online lefties doesn't actually work in alleviating that. Because if I ban you every time you say something racist and Cozy lets you say racist shit, it's only a matter of time until people who look remarkably similar to Hanz end up with their own fucking humongous echo chamber spamming the N-word 24/7.
There are no men like me, but like specifically, let's get big government in on this for a second. So, we know that Amanda's a big gamer, right? And probably during heated Mario Kart sessions online,
gamer moment, hell yeah.
She not just has gamer moments, but she probably threatens to murder Mario or maybe other people. And
look, all I said, I called him a little wop. That's all I said. Okay. I said, you little wop, I hate you. Oh my god.
Anti-Italian racism, but anyway, right? Yeah. In regards to what Pyro was saying about how like people showing up to your house if you say certain things, the apparatus that it would require to have an FBI agent show up to a person's house for every time someone, say, made a death threat online would be extensive. It would require a massive collection and surveillance system in regards to how people monitor individuals online, to the point where online anonymity might be personal, but it won't be societal in regards to because the government knows exactly what your IP connection is, knows exactly what accounts you're operating out of, and if you say something off color, they will find you. And I'm only referring, I'm not trying to talk about anything like that anyone said is wrong, but let's specifically take death threats. Are people currently okay with, if there's some, say, like 2-follower account of some like random jackass who, say, threatens, our beautiful Toby, right, online and says, I'm gonna play some video games with Toby and he's never gonna see you the next day, right? Should the government
bring it on,
come in
Jesus Christ
and be like, yo, dude, you can't fucking threaten to kill people online. And are people okay with that system? Because
no. I would actually take it to the law. Like many states, death threats are fucking illegal, bro. So yeah,
I agree with you. I'm asking about like, are the conservatives okay with that level of government like interaction in our personal lives? Because this.
I'm answering because specifically I brought up the point about like not wanting government interference, and like this is along the line of like questioning that I expected when it comes to treating the internet like the town square and shit. Yeah, that includes like when certain laws are broken, like direct threats of violence, like death threats in many states are considered to be. That's when the government kind of can, when they go in and they put probes into like white supremacist like subculture counterculture Reddits. Like they're not busting every motherfucker who props up the Uncle Ruckus meme or puts up the Confederate flag. They usually wait until motherfuckers start trying to plan shit, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with when we see you breaking the law, actually starting your advocations for violence, actually sending death threats, like then you get in trouble. Sure.
I think it's pretty
that's like
simple.
where the bounds of free speech are in like normal life.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. We already have laws against these things that we're talking about making more laws against. It doesn't make any sense. We already have laws that you can't make threats to kill people.
Yes, and
but it's about enforcement of the laws, right? We're saying if you say something online, if I say I'm going to find you and we're going to play some games together, like that means an FBI agent's going to show up at my house. Are we okay with every time that's uttered on the internet, someone's going to backtrack through someone's IP address and find that house?
We don't even have to do that, Hank.
We don't have to go that far, Hans. We can take the Korea route. You need a fucking ID card linked to your name, social, and everything to even log onto the internet. You get caught saying these things, good luck. The government just took your internet access away because you don't know how to be a fucking big kid.
No, people don't do that. I mean, you say something like that, the people take it the wrong way or whatever, and the local community is your first one that moderates you, or you appeal to a moderator for the community that you're in.
There are
because we
communities
still
that
have
don't
this,
care about moderating this stuff.
right? Of course, and then I don't go to those, or I do go to those to have certain expectations, or whatever, because the rules are still the same as we have in society online, although it has become more concentrated in a lot of spaces and so forth. But how we deal with those things is very similar. As in, you're trying to work it out, or did I take that the wrong way, or did you really mean that this way? And then it's, I can step from there to be able to handle
I'm
it.
sorry, it's okay. It wasn't a real threat because I said I want to kill you in Minecraft. No, that's a retarded take. Like the whole, it's
No,
how
it's
you
not,
how they
because
said-
what,
no, it's
how you just
Toby,
said it
Toby,
was,
Toby, sit down for a minute. I'm here. Hold
you're
on.
sarcastic. Go
I know.
ahead.
You love me though. But like, here's the thing: we don't have to have these. It doesn't have to be like a full-on ban forever. They could just be like, cool. Instead of Twitch banning you for 30 days because you made a death threat to black people, or instead of Cozy banning you for 30 days, which they're not going to do for making death threats towards black people because that's the type of behavior they fucking encourage, right? The government says, hey, somebody reported you saying this. We reviewed the clip. Guess what? You lose internet access across the board unless it's like an educational website or like a government organization that you need to do for like benefits or housing or some shit, right? You lose all access to outside of that net for 30 days because you wanted to be a dick. That is such a fucking rad system. And I'd be fine with that because like then you don't have to cry about like, well, oh my God, they didn't like me because I said like because it's because I'm a conservative. It's because I voted for Trump, and it's like, no, here's the list of your charge right here. It's because you made a death threat, or it's because you said I think we should arm up and go fight this ethnic group of people because I'm a dickbag. Like this is easily behavior we can look at and say, no, this is being a dick for just being a dick. It's not funny being a dick. It's bad being a dick. And you're not allowed to be on the internet while you're being a dick. We do this at schools. You get suspended. We do this at work. You will lose your fucking job or get sent home without thing. You want to be a racist at work? Guess what? You're going home, unless you work on a plantation. You want to be a fucking homophobe at work? Guess what? There's recourse that the government can take against you through the EDD and the labor board to punish you, and you will lose that job.
Okay.
Why
A
not apply
question
that to
on
the
that to
internet?
clarify
That's
that,
basic fuck.
to understand that is, if someone utters a death threat like that, either on Facebook that the police get involved, or in the workplace that police get involved, whatever that consequence would already apply to people online as well too. I don't see a need for like a 30-day ban from the
Here's
internet
the thing.
necessarily.
It doesn't.
Although
no,
that
it's not-
sounds
it's not,
cool,
It's
I
not
guess.
always illegal like that in every state. So, like I know in my state, if you make a death threat and you're not in my state, if you make a threat like that to me or dox me or whatever, and you're in a different state, the state of California will still fucking fuck with you. Like California is fucking retarded, but not all states chase this type of stuff, right? Why not
Okay,
make
yeah.
it
So
federal across-
internationally, then it would have to be regulated by the United States, I guess, because they pretty much control the internet internationally.
Oh,
That-
no, stop it,
that's a bad
guys.
take.
Listen.
Okay.
Globalism.
I don't know. I don't know about the international. That was an honest question.
Global
I don't know.
internet controls. Sorry, go ahead, Toby.
But-
Right. Do the
That's
people
sorry.
in tiny hats also control the internet too? Oh my god.
All right, so there was a point where I was fine with this. There's now a point where I'm not. So Samantha, thank you for coming in to make your point, and also, good to use your mod privileges and not like completely dominate the panel for 45 minutes. So here's the thing. I've got a question that I want to ask for the panel. I do have some serious issues with Samantha's policy, but I don't think it's completely out of bounds. I will trade you this as just my own opinion. Samantha's fine if you want to have it to where like you have to like ID yourself to get out into the internet. I'm cool with that. What it has to be is whenever you make a post, whenever you go about, people can see who did it, right? So you have the social ramification, but the government isn't going to come in and just remove your privileges from being on the internet. That I don't approve of. I think that's like the government telling you not to leave your home at this rate. So without further ado, I want to ask one of my Tiberius special abilities here and ask the panelists something. I want to make it about them for one key moment here regarding this topic. So real quick, let's try not to spend too much time on this. What's the thing that pisses you off, panelist? What's the thing that makes you go, no, you can't say that around me. I'm going to get fucking mad.
Like straight up, what is that one thing you like? Hopefully, it isn't a massive list. But what's the thing that like people you're not cool with people talking about around you?
Definitely that the red crayon is a superior flavor over the purple, because the purple is absolutely the best flavor.
You're objectively wrong.
No, because purple is a combination of blue for freedom and red for the blood of my enemies, okay?
Oh
It
my
is the
God.
best flavor.
All right.
Yes,
Yes,
Hanz,
he
I
was
was.
a Marine. He literally
Look,
flew arrows.
I walked by a guy the other day who asked me what happens if you pour glue on a non-stick pan. Okay, and I wanted to inflict bodily harm upon him.
So you get
Okay,
me trapped.
let me know when I get to
I
share
guess it's
something real.
depends
All
on
right,
the type
so,
of glue. Epoxy would probably stick.
Colby, I want to hear it. Like anyone who has the real take here. Go ahead.
So one of the things that just fucking irritates the hell out of me is when somebody talks down to me and like tries to put me in my place, right? Like from a parental type of perspective. Anything along those lines, doesn't matter what the fuck they're saying. It just gets me, and I get so fucking triggered, and I just have to start managing my own emotional state at that point. I really can't even engage. I'm working on it, and I'll do better. But yeah, I fucking hate that.
I
Respect.
have one.
Sorry, go.
Definitely, even though it might sound confusing to y'all, I don't care. I am definitely a little bit sensitive depending on what you say about Jewish people. And it's not in the case of like you can't say it, but if somebody says something that's a bit pejorative, I'll kind of ask them about it and press them about it. But for me, like if I'm offended, I'm not gonna like sit here and say you can't say it. I'd rather just kind of understand where you're coming from and sort of see what the like undertone of the point is, and then I'll be like, okay, well, that's how you feel, man, but fuck you. But overall, like I would say there are certain Jewish things that definitely I will push back against when they come off pretty pejorative and out your ass. But for the most part, there's a lot that's okay in my books on these fronts. But I will vomit out a lot of marketing stuff. I will be honest here. I love the industry, you know, thank you, pay me lots, daddy capitalist, but at the same time, a lot of it makes me want to vomit and like just wash my face or my brain.
Hanz and Pyro that I believe still want to go.
Me too.
Okay, so I'm gonna do Pyro first, Hanz, and then Samantha.
I can do an actual take on this as well, if that's fine. It'll be a short one.
Yeah. So real quick, Pyro, you got your take on this one?
Yeah, as the capybara of fucking Twitch politics, I can pretty much chill with anyone of any political persuasion. But the one pet peeve I really fucking have, and like I just can't tolerate it, and it's when I become the pyro tyrant, is when it becomes obvious to me that you're talking about something you have absolutely no fucking clue on what you're talking about. You are talking about flying an airplane and you can't even tie your shoes, my brother.
Feel that.
Why the fuck are you talking? Why the fuck are you on this panel? I've been on so many panels and I've seen so many panels where there's at least one fucking moron that just sits there and they're like, duh, that was transphobic. Duh, that's liberal. That's Biden speak. That's Trump speak. And it's just a complete derail because their brain lost the fucking connection 10 minutes ago. That's my biggest pet peeve. You can see it in this fucking rant how much it pisses me off. Because just thinking about it is something that really just blows my fucking mind. And that's it.
That was delicious. Hanz, please.
I would say personally, I'd say misinformation, but more specifically, misinformation or lies about me. I would say, like in terms of like online content creation and feuds with people, sometimes people will just try and spread outright lies about you that like adversely affect your reputation, but don't really say materially harm you in the offline space. And there's this really frustrating, I'd say, middle ground where, you know, you probably shouldn't be able to sue those people, right? But if you have powerful or more prominent figures saying that you're either a terrible person or like, you know, you have substance abuse problems or you're like a terrible transphobe that like hates people when that's really like not close to your ideology, then it starts feeling very frustrating and irresponsible. But in the way that the internet works, there's not really something you can do about that, especially if you have a smaller platform, right? Like if I say my old Twitter account had like 5,000 followers or some shit, and if I would like pick on someone say they had 50 followers and they were like a super small Twitch streamer, right? And I was like, yo, everyone, this guy, like, fuck socks covered in shit all the time, and then he smells them afterwards because he's a fucking weirdo and a degenerate.
Oh my god.
And
Interesting. Tell me more.
And he became known as like the poop sock guy, right? And there's no way for this guy to get any level of recompense because I'm not gonna let him come on to correct the record. Or if he does, I might be a better debater than him, and I'll just dunk on him the entire time, just hand over fist, just like windmilling this shit into his face, much like the sock went. Then what is he supposed to do in terms of recompense? And I don't really know how to fix that in terms of the online space because a lot of people say terrible shit about each other, and sometimes those things are open to interpretation. Like, what is the definition of transphobic? What is the definition of what substance abuse means? And even though there's no way I can legislate against that, I'd probably say that has been the biggest cause of my personal struggles online. And part of why, in the past, I've had to take breaks where I'm just I can't handle this right now. Even because if I was say a decently sizable platform, there's always someone that's going to be bigger than you, and they might dislike you and they might say something terrible, and there's nothing you can really do about it in terms of correcting the narrative. And we see people tie themselves in knots or go insane. I'm not attacking my brother, right? But my boy Connor has been on a tear on Twitter today because someone said that he wasn't an investigator or something, and he is.
Oh my god!
And he's done a 20-tweet thread of different pictures.
That was
Bro, my man got locked us into his feelings, bro. They said, you don't know how to tie your shoes. Look at all of the shoes I've tied.
Yeah,
I tied
my shoes.
All right, look, I'm gonna.
I'm not
I know you're not
him.
done, but no. I know you're not, and I just you went for a bit, so I'm gonna wrap this up just for you and for everything. Number one, I love Connor. Obviously, he's one of my best friends, but on the other side of that, he's very much like me. You attack our ego, and then all shit is off. It's not a good time.
Too many egos on the internet. I got.
Well, you gotta have a little bit of ego to actually get up in front of an audience of however many we have, right?
Problem
you
is
can-
people get too big egos, bro.
You can just,
I deal with enough big egos.
you can be a VTuber. You don't have to worry about any of the consequences of that shit, okay? Because if shit hits the fan, I'm just gonna put on a different avatar and you lot can go fuck yourself.
Listen, you're
There's
just
nothing you can do to stop
And
it.
I just
in terms
legally
of
change my
marketing-
name and then get plastic surgery and move on as well too. I'm cool.
I need to
What's the
wrap
some
marketing?
type of British.
I love y'all. I gotta wrap this topic up. I'm sorry, I know I have to start shutting this down, but I still need the answer from Chris, I believe Samantha, and then I'm actually gonna wrap this up myself. So
Yeah, when you asked about the feeling of threatened, you meant in IRL spaces, right? You didn't mean online, or did you mean online included?
well, it's not the threatened part. So just to reiterate what I said, what's the part that pisses you off to where you're like, people shouldn't be allowed to say this, or people shouldn't just go about, saying this kind of thing willy-nilly. A lot of it, I know really comes down, for most people, it's a personal attack of some sort. But I'm quite curious where everyone's line is, and we've got a little bit across the board. So if you got anything there, go for it.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, being from a fairly bigoted background, I remain infinitely optimistic when it comes to giving people second chances. If it comes to IRL spaces, when it comes to things actually pissing me off, it will kind of depend. There's nothing that you can say per se that will be that thing that gets me going. But if I'm with my girl, for instance, and you make me feel physically threatened, when I know I'm responsible for her safety, I'm going to feel some type of way about it, and I'll likely start swinging first. In terms of online spaces, though, I think that if a big content creator labels a smaller one as anything along the lines of Nazi or a fascist, we should hold a 5-person tribunal. And if they can't substantiate that claim, we refer to them for a week exclusively as a fucking poo-poo head.
More doobie panels like that, then. Got it.
All right. So last but not least is Samantha, and then after that, Samantha, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave for a while.
Fine. Well, I'm going to start off with most of you should probably read the book by Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy. You're welcome.
I've read him.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
can't read.
Typical. Anyway, so I'm going to start off with saying the things that I can't stand in spaces that just I think should be yeeted into the sun. Is anybody promoting some sort of crypto scheme, right? Pedophiles. So I would yeet Mr. Girl into the sun. People that think that there's some big cabal of Jewish people that run the entire planet with the global homo agenda funded by George Soros and stuff. They can be yeeted into the sun. Black Hammer can be yeeted into the sun. They're doing it themselves because they're shooting themselves. It's pretty great. But yeah, and then people that run cults and every Scientologist on the planet also yeeted right into the fucking sun. most celebrities.
Oh.
She's got a whole list.
And then people that have a
Definitely
list.
the celebrities.
People
can
that have a
get muted.
list. So like Viv, right into the sun.
Oh.
Other than that,
Entire continent of the UK, right into the sun.
red coats, bam,
Racism
sun,
against
and,
British
and Northern
All
Ireland
right.
goes with them until they like get back to like getting rid of British people.
All right, Samantha. Thank you for the trolls. Good to see you. All right, here's mine.
Wait, what
America all day, every day. 1776 will rise again.
No, we set fire to your pretty little building, and we took your stuff. Okay, so like, listen.
I'm sorry, World
Yeah,
War
but let's
II.
be real, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We don't-
1812.
It is time.
Everyone here is
passionate.
Everyone here is
18,
passionate
12.
about being a red-blooded American. Okay, the real question is, when are you guys going to stop shooting kids in school? That's what I
Whoa.
want to know.
I agree.
Are you okay with shooting your other location?
All right, hey, I love you.
Of course, I fucking hate children.
Derailed.
Look
Look at this.
What about
okay?
I swear to God, I'm gonna mute all
Just send the
y'all.
children to
Shut
the
up.
mines. Don't shoot them.
have guns in schools.
All right, you're done.
People.
All right.
I'm not saying it.
I love you. Here's my take on this one, real quick. I think people can vouch me on this one. Is that the thing that I don't really care for is like just or like personal attacks to the degree of just disrespect, right? Like you call somebody a weirdo and whatever. But if something that's clearly meant to actually like harm like their own psyche or character, like I don't tolerate that bullshit for much. And I can even give the citation of yesterday. I was shit talking Supreme because I've got some issues with the guy, right? But then somebody was like comparing him to President Sunday. I'm like, that's not even a comparison. Supreme is okay. President Sunday can go rot in hell. And then without further ado, let's get a second topic here.
Wait, I do have one thing that I wanted to ask in this sense, and I think that it's connected to that, and I'll be quick, I promise.
All right.
But basically, I will say, even though we're all kind of in agreement that like there's a pretty high bar for us to get pissed off, and I just gotta say it because I don't know, but there seems to be a lot of criticism about the fact that a lot of these debate bro panels don't really have a lot of women, and I would say that the language and the conversation and the dialogue is probably a barrier. So while we all say we have a high tolerance, I think we can also all acknowledge that like certain people, we need to kind of meet them in the middle, and I think that there's a lot of people who wouldn't enter these spaces because of the language just feels a little bit too pushed off. Like, I'll be here because like, look, I'll fight you in real life. I don't give a shit. But like when it comes to other women who want to enter these spaces, it seems to be the conversation that they're not really they don't like the way that they're treated, and the fact that like if you just have like a difference of opinion, you're gonna be a bitch, and then like a lot of women are sort of pushed away from that conversation. I'm not like I just speaking to a lot of women, having been a woman for most of my life. But just in terms of like, there are people who will not find this place accessible because of the language. That's all I want to say. But we can go on to men's rights now.
I personally blame all of the Republicans for this.
What an interesting segue into our next topic.
Yeah,
I thought so,
okay.
Why do you
You're
hate
welcome.
women? Question.
You're welcome.
I swear, like someone's gonna summon a CTV. Why are women? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen,
Actually, the next topic.
before we get there,
Women. Why?
all right. I love y'all, but y'all need to shut up for a second. I gotta chill. Anyway, I love y'all very much. First topic down, got one more to go. Before we get there is that my job is currently door dashing. We're going to be ending that soon, probably over the holiday season, so like I'm going to have to change the dynamic here, but it costs me money to be here. And the deal is that my community is putting up quite a bit of money for this to all work. So the long and the short here is this. We're looking for about $90 every time that we do this. Usually I get one guy who's matching everything that's put in. And so I need 45 from my community to actually make me viable to be here. Because I make about $30 an hour on DoorDash on a Saturday night. So if you want to support this wonderful content, definitely help me out. I haven't done all of the calculations yet. We've already had a couple subs. We've already had a couple donations and tips and whatnot. I apologize I haven't tabulated that yet. So we might already be like halfway there. But I do want to... I do want to shill a little bit here. The only way I can continue to do this wonderful conversation with all you wonderful people and bring you all these wonderful topics and particularly set all this up because I had 4 people drop out this week. Yeah, it takes time, it takes energy and effort, and I need you all to help me out with that. So, if you would,
I really appreciate it. And before we get to that point, Grumpelstiltskin, thank you for the 9,000 bits. Great to have that. So,
Stillskin's awesome.
yeah, he's a great contributor here. But topic number 2. Quick, simple, and easy. Do men's rights advocates have any legitimate points? What do y'all care about? What actually is up on the board that folks who are like, yeah, I'm pro-man, and this is a man's issue. What do you think they've got right? And I'm going to start with Pyro Tyrant.
Damn, you really gonna put me on the spot right like that?
Yeah.
We had days to prepare.
I think
What kind of
the
spot is
unfortunate,
Sorry.
the unfortunate reality, because like I just didn't want to start off. I wanted someone else to take the fucking hit for me, because I'm like I'm the capybara. I want to be the guy. I want everyone to like me. But now you're not, because a very like 4, like they have very few points in between all of the vast amounts of fucking bullshit. There are several points, like the way some men are just really fucking lonely and they don't know how to get out there and like find friends or like try and be social. Like, yeah, that's a fucking point. There's shit that deal with the law system where like, yeah, in certain areas you can look at it, men are treated quote unquote unfairly when it comes to like, yeah, how kids are given up in divorces and shit like that. And, you know, they have a right to feel like that. You know, we could talk about when it comes to like how the separations work and the job issues. And I'm willing to hear the points, but like they have a point to feel, you know, talk about that shit like that. But again, it's, you know, spread out so much amongst all of the really dumb women hating shit that it kind of feels dirty to say it, that they have a point, and I might need to take a shower afterwards. Because, like, Jesus Christ, they don't fucking help themselves. They really don't help themselves.
All right. Gotcha. Next, Amanda, I want to hear the woman's voice on this one.
Damn it, I thought I was going to get to go last. As far as it goes, I think that, wow. Okay, so I do think that men's rights overall as a community have a lot of points, but I sort of entered my beliefs on gender rights from a political standpoint. So I just felt that overall there's a lot of systems that are difficult for both parties to navigate. The red pill stuff and the manosphere, I've sort of learned from periphery of watching a lot of male content creators and their conversations around it. But I will definitely say, having been in a long-term relationship for over 5 years up until recently, I was in a bubble away from that stuff. So I genuinely, there's a lot of parts of my brain that this doesn't really process, because in terms of relationships, I don't know, I feel like, why don't you just get to know each other and just like chit chat for a really long time and understand each other, and then maybe you're gonna date. Like, what's all of this nonsense and circus about? But that's just me, because I've been on a very different corner of the internet. But I think men have every right to have rights, but it shouldn't come at the consequence of other rights. Point dropped.
All right, Toby.
Yeah, so I've been aware of the red pill community since around 2010 or so, and Mystery did the TV show on cable back then. And there is a lot of whining and complaining from soy boys and incels as well too, just in different ways. And I just feel that it just undermines the whole thing. But I'll jump right to the heart of the matter, which is that the big point that I took away from that needed to be addressed from the red pill community about men is if men are disposable in our society or not, and what they need to do about it. And they're the ones that die. I mean, of course, women have their different problems like rape and oppression and those types of things as well too. So in a way, it's still about even. There seems to be slightly more women in the world than men, but not a huge enough of a difference, I guess. And I've been looking for years and years since then, because I thought Mystery was a bit creepy or whatever. But I was like, oh, this is interesting. The dude's getting laid. What the hell's going on? I'm curious. Psychology, self-help, personal growth. What? And so I started studying it and looking into it. And I was always looking for someone that I could actually stand listening to. Fresh and fit. I just don't like listening to them. Any of the other people or so forth. And then I finally came across Kevin Ray Wilder, and he's kind of like one of those pretty boys, and so it gets called Kevin Gay Wilder quite a bit, and that's kind of fun. But he's very reasonable, and and I enjoy listening to him a little bit. And even the playing with fire dude that he hangs with, and not so erudite as they talk about those things, has been quite a bit that's been happening there. But if men are disposable in our society, and what they need to do is just to do something that makes them of value, and then they don't have to be disposable, then we are talking about something that ought to be educated and shared with a lot more people.
All right, next, Hanz.
All right, let's put some spice in this. All right, number one, okay, thing Red Pillar's got. Self-improvement, fucking based. I fucking love the gym. Any of my fellow bros out there who like are wondering whether this is good advice, it absolutely is. It's the best part of your day. It makes you feel good, makes you feel alive. Also makes you hot as fuck, so everyone wants to have sex with you. It's 2, all right? Coming at women for a second, all right? This is about men's rights. I'm sorry, ladies. We'll talk about your rights later, okay? And your wrongs. We're talking about your wrongs right now. So specifically,
Ouch.
a lot of women, okay, in the dating pool overvalue themselves and undervalue specific men. And I would say this because very few people are actually happy in their relationships because they feel like they're either having sex with people that don't want to date them, or they're not giving certain people a shot that want to date them, but they feel like might just want to fuck them. And so for this specific thing, I would say in the Red Pill thing, a lot of people really don't understand their individual value inside of a marketplace, and they either overestimate it or underestimate it. For a lot of guys, if you're out there, best Red Pill thing can tell you is, to clean yourself up, get a decent wardrobe, wear clothes that fit, go to the gym, make sure your job is taken care of, make sure your apartment is clean, and then act in a way that doesn't make people think you're gonna fucking kill them in the street when you walk out of the bar with them. That's like a big things for the Red Pill guys. Crazy shit is if you want a lovely diminutive trad wife that will do everything you have and have dinner home ready when you come home from work at 5 every fucking day. Why are you trying to fuck every single thing that moves? It's absolutely ridiculous. You're like, I want to have 20,000 women to have sex with me, and then I'm gonna find one that isn't supposedly a whore, and I'm gonna settle down with that one. Well, you're making a lot of whores supposedly. So, in the words of what Jesse Lee Peterson is I'm a slut maker. Well, maybe if you want a nice gal, you probably shouldn't have done that first, right?
Well, Hans, it's because
Wait, one second. We'll talk about men's wrongs in a second.
It's still in
I'm still.
Can we kill it or can we fuck it? Right?
I'm still speaking
twisted.
Twisted. We are talking. This is important. Thank you very much,
My
sir.
God.
All right, but specifically, right? That's a big problem. I think the energy you want to put into the world is energy that you need to spread out positively. If you want a traditional conservative relationship with somebody, that's totally okay. I went through all of my college years and the first couple of years of my 20s, fucking everything that moved, right? It was really fucking fun. Now, for about the last year, I've had a pretty steady, monogamous relationship, and I really, really enjoy it, right? But I don't tell men that you have to be trad or you have to do this. I think you should interact in the dating marketplace the way that you feel comfortable, and you should work on self-improvement and finding people that love you as you are. When I tell you that you need to go to the gym and you need to take care of yourself and clean up a little bit better, I'm not saying you have to fundamentally change your personality. I'm saying you have to find out what makes you you, what makes you different, and what makes you special, and then you can start working those things. And also, again, be realistic. If you're a regular dude, that say makes 40K and plays World of Warcraft 20 hours a week, you're probably not landing a supermodel. So don't be frustrated about that. And the same way for women, right? If you are, like a waitress, don't assume you're gonna find a billionaire.
All right, I'm getting punked. Hans, take those big muscles of yours and condense these points down a little bit.
I'm done.
I love you, man, but we don't need 3-minute intros.
Why are women and men? Okay, we're gonna.
All right, yeah, we can get that in the open, but let somebody else have a moment to talk. You've got the big brain power and you got the bronze power. Balance it out, my man.
I'll shut up. I'm really sorry.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm seriously questioning if I smoked enough for this goddamn panel, but we'll figure that out later. Next, Chris speaks.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and not take 15 fucking minutes. All right. I am deeply sympathetic with men's issues. I've said earlier that I was both deep in the Red Pill and deep in the incel. On the front end of Red Pill, there is a ton of your sort of milquetoast self-improvement advice that I absolutely fuck with, right? Hitting the gym works wonders, and my Aryan brother on the panel has already agreed with that. Having a hobby actually makes you fucking based. Taking a shower works wonders, right? Having a clean place you live in and wearing tidy clothes makes you fucking attractive. On top of that, there are many realities in life that people are happy to reject that Red Pillers seem to acknowledge. women have been doing a brilliant job in education and work-wise. Men have increasingly had a growing rate of depression. They do not know where they fix in our society, and we need to realistically try and fix that, right? However, the big problem I have is that at the tail end, what you've got is rampant sexism, incredible homophobia, hostility towards men who aren't heterosexual, and I fucking hate how Redpill puts arbitrary barriers in between men and potential happiness for no good fucking reason at all. I feel like at the tail end of Redpillery, it's literally just a machine to pump out depressed men and just infinitely abuse them. Hanz asked a ton of good questions. My problem is just that if you want to devote the rest of your life to Redpill, you're not going to get the fucking answer for any of them.
Damn.
Take
All
the
right.
pink pill instead.
Twisted.
Are we?
Well, first, Hans, to answer your question, why fucking everything that moves, it's because as Marines, we have two options, right, when we meet somebody. You can either kill it or you can fuck it, right?
What about a
those
child?
Are the two things out there, right?
I have more than one choice.
But anyway.
You meet a child, kill her.
All right. Wait. All right. It's still intros. Give him his intro. I know he interrupted you.
So anyway, back to some reality. I kind of have two. I don't watch a lot of YouTube videos and follow this red pill stuff. So I'm just going to give two men's issues that I feel are kind of hot button things. One I have personal experience with, and one I just believe. So personal experience. There is still kind of an archaic look on like when you get a divorce, right? Now, my case, I got kind of lucky that my ex was psycho enough that two of her attorneys fired her as client. So she self-represented, and my attorney basically wiped the floor with her. But I still wound up with 4 years of alimony, paying $2,500 a month to her ass because she decided that after we got married, she was a nurse. After we got married, she decided she wasn't going to fucking work anymore. She was going to sit on the couch and freaking shove snacks down her gullet all day, right? Why do I have to pay for the fact that she was a lazy ass, right? That's ridiculous in my opinion. So that's one. Two is, and I'm not going to open the abortion topic up other than to say that if women are going to be allowed to abort children as birth control, if they don't want the child, then men should be allowed to do a papered abortion where you say, you know what? I don't want the kid. I'm not responsible for anything to do with it. So
All right, well,
those are kind of two of my hot button items.
If this doesn't turn into a spicy ass second topic, I don't know what will. Before we get to that, I just want to thank a couple of people out there for being awesome and actually helping us get to our goals. So we've had Changebox, Ico Rich, and Grumpled Silkskin largely is doing the way. Also, Jacanadar. Technically, we're over our goal for today already between all of you. So thank you all very much.
Do they donate to me now? Is that how that goes?
Technically, no, but here's the problem. Just as a forewarning, we will not be here next week because that is Christmas Eve, and I cannot make that work. So anything that you guys want to put back for that towards next week, so I can make sure that I can buy Christmas presents, would be appreciated, but obviously not needed. The thing that I have to get back on you all with is, are we going to have a show on New Year's Day? Because for some reason we decided to have a holiday that was literally a week apart. Good job, America. Christmas should be on the 21st, but apparently we can't get shit straight. But
Christianity.
Without further ado,
Jesus.
Y'all had some wonderful, interesting takes on men's rights and men's rights advocates. So without further ado, ready, fight!
Okay, I wanna fire away at the divorce one, okay? And I'm not here to tell you that, like, no, divorce is a fucking based and it should work the way it does, because I can appreciate that men get fucked over and when it comes to fucking legal system, right? But do we not think that it kind of makes sense to a certain extent that if I take it upon myself to work and provide, and you sacrifice all of the years when you could have worked and provide to have a child, then by the end of it, you will probably be financially illiterate, and I should hold some level of responsibility in that little shebang that we've just performed.
Well,
Yeah, Twisted, you're a little off on this one.
Sure, if she had a child, if we had a kid, yeah. If she took care of the house, yeah. If she did something other than sit on her ass and shove snacks down her gullet, yeah.
Bro, what the fuck
I
are we
agree.
doing right now?
But
It's
that's
the
all
boring
she
divorce
did.
stuff.
That's all
What the
she
fuck
did,
just
right?
happened?
She didn't do anything.
Right, okay, but
All she was the dependopotamus.
Twisted,
Who
I
hurt you,
fucking,
Twisted?
I feel everything that you're saying, but like, this isn't the part of men's issue that like we're fucking with
listen,
here.
for me, it was a cross dresser for me. Like that person for me was a cross dresser. So it was like when I think about like the divorce that I fuck all over the system. I'm pansexual, bro. Like fuck y'all. Like y'all over here twisting y'all.
I'm just like have this like thing where they're like spending a shit ton of money on people and then like getting left. I'm just like, or sorry, having divorces. Like I'm. Go ahead.
No, I'm not talking about divorce. I'm just talking about a bad relationship.
Rights. This is awesome.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like when I brought up divorce, I'm thinking about like, there are men who fight tooth and nail to get their fucking custody of their child, but because of stereotypes about how women are just better caretakers and how men don't really know what they're fucking doing, like, and then like people that being in their mindsets like. Nah, don't work out for them. Sometimes, like, it goes to a mom who doesn't necessarily have the best interest of the child at heart, or who might not be a better caretaker, might not have, like, the actual, finances, like Twisted was alluding to, what, the woman who's not doing anything. They might not be in the position to take care of a child where a man would be, but, like, due to our really weird system of thinking, like, women take care of children, so, like, most people are just willing to sign that off and, like, go on to the next case.
I think
I really don't
just,
care about all
I
this
would like
marriage
I would
divorce shit or whatever, because it's been hashed out a lot of different ways. I mean, I'm not even considering myself red pill or whatever. I just studied that and the other pills or other methodologies to be able to move through those different things so that I can have a better tool set to be able to interact with people and so forth. And Chris, like what you were saying, it can destroy lives, and I get that, but anything can be used for or against stuff. And so I'm just trying to pull the insights out of it that are there to be able to bring me a greater level of self-control and to protect myself against a greater level of twisted manipulation, and to be able to help other people see those things deeper as well too. I think that's one of the great insights that Red Pill has brought to our society, is how this sexual marketplace thing is working and how people understand each other and so forth.
Right, but so here's the thing, okay? Because otherwise we're just going to be fucking circling around this like a bunch of dickheads, right? And we're just going to get nowhere. You've got the front end of Red Pill that nobody here is going to have any issues with, right? Like if I told you guys right now that we've got studies to show that when men and women get sentenced for the same crime, men on average get longer sentences than women, nobody here is going to say like, well, you know what, actually that isn't what happens, or that is otherwise based and we should be like all fucking for it. No one's here going to fight that like against that one. At least I don't, none of you come across as that fucking like filled with lunacy to me, okay? I might be wrong, and you are more than welcome to jump in if you are. But I think the problem that we have with Red Pill, okay, I will not say we, I'll be more direct. The problem I have with Red Pill was on the tail end of my opening statement. They put arbitrary barriers between men and happiness that I just really don't fuck with. The attitude that is like so filled with sexism, that is what actually fucking annoys me. The idea that if a woman devotes a portion of her life to education, then she is no longer desirable. If she's in her 30s or like entering that sort of stage, she is no longer desirable. If she's got anything that like goes away from the stereotypical image of beauty, she is no longer desirable. The problem I have with Red Pill is that all of the fucking shit at the tail end of it is incredibly materialistic. Your value is determined by how many mansions you have, how many sports cars you have, and how young of a woman you can fuck that is still within the bounds of like the legal system. And I just think that all of that is dog shit.
Well, it is to a point, and I agree with that as well.
That's because we're connected, Pyro, okay? You and I.
That's why I alluded to in my beginning, like, they have it so far in between, because, like, they'll bring up, like, men are just depressed more often. Like, I've read studies about incels, like, yeah, incels are really fucking depressed people. They have, like, self-victimizing tendencies. And then, like, these manosphere dudes would be like, men are really depressed. What about that? And then it'll be like, yeah, but you need to have, like, 80, cars, a six-pack, and if these bitches don't fucking love you, well, then they're worthless pieces of shit who don't deserve the fucking time. And it's like, bro, calm down with the hostility towards women. Bring up the men's issues that we need to honestly talk about. Why are there a lot of dudes who are feeling this
yes,
shit?
fucking yes. I will just jump in and then I'll shut up because I appreciate that I'm taking up so much of the panel space. Do you know what is actually fucky as shit? And I don't like these people so much. Jesus fucking Christ. Do you know what is weird? For you to have an ideology that has so much sexism in it, and yet your entirety of your self fucking value is based on whether or not women would fuck you. Like, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that to yourself?
A lot of that is like interpersonal victimhood. Like I'm looking at a study right now. Like these people feel like a lot of their lives are outside of their control, and like they're just picking a group to blame. It's got to be someone else. It's not me that's the problem. Like I have these.
It's everyone else,
the women.
right? Yeah,
No,
it's
no, it's
everyone
not.
else,
No,
yeah.
no, it's not me. I'm not the reason I can't. It's not me not having a job and living with my mom. No, it's women. You're the problem.
Always
It's
the
you.
women.
Yeah. Most incels, according to the study, don't have jobs. Most incels live with their parents. Is it a wonder these people can't get fucking laid? Because I can tell you right now, when I lived with my mom and had a job, there was no poon slanging in that house. I was not catching any hot dick. No. Mama would come in there with the pan and be like, yo, what the fuck is y'all doing? Get a
Living alone is
job.
pretty nice.
Get a house. Get an apartment. Clean yourself up. Don't go out looking dusty. These are the men's issues that need to be focused on instead of fucking women. Amanda, why aren't you sucking my no? That's not the fucking solution.
I'm a big old bitch.
I'll be the bad guy in a second. Amanda, you were trying to jump in. What do you?
I mean, like it just like as
I'm trying to moderate and I'm muted. I'm so sorry. I'm a retard. Anyway, so here's the thing that I want to get into just real quick. Pyro and Chris, I appreciate the enthusiasm. I will openly say that, Chris, if you want to talk a lot more on this topic, feel free to have at it. You were very quiet during the first time. I'll give you some leeway on this one. Here's the thing. I have no problem with saying that you hate certain things about, like, you know, men's rights advocates, red pill community. I'm not focused on that. I want to have a real conversation on what do you think they're getting right. It looks like a lot of the self-improvement talk you all trying to agree on. Is there anything else that you see out of this community that you're like, they need to focus on that more, and the community needs to focus on this?
Yeah, I got
In
like
terms of
75 things.
in terms
Point
of
me in a direction.
self-improvement, I gotta say that like it is, you know, it's great to have a good apartment, to have a good job, to clean up nice and stuff like that. But if you have piss poor interpersonal communication skills, who gives a shit that your hair looks good? You know, like at the end of the day, if you're not actually able to sit and have good conversations or be able to keep your cool when shit hits the fan and stuff like that, like I think that self-improvement is good and going to the gym is good, but you need to improve like what's in here the same way that you need to improve like what's here. So I think that if there's anywhere that like people could keep pushing down that road, there's a lot of people that I know that are not part of the red pill community that are men that have just spent years trying to, you know, work on their little issues, their little interpersonal this and that, things that piss them off, things that don't piss them off, talking to people, talking to women, all this stuff. Like there's lots of ways you can improve that are not outwardly and show. Because like, yeah, you could get a girl from that, but she's not going to stick around for an extended amount of time if she realizes that like at the end of the day, you're kind of still a piece of shit. Like you know, you might be a nice seat, but it doesn't mean that like you are ring material. You know?
So I would for this one specifically, right? I agree. A lot of what Chris and Pyro said have been pretty based, right? We want to help men and tell them to get better. I would say, and I'm ready to fight people on this. I think some of the behaviors of the red pill community in regards to focusing on materialism, focusing on, you know, just trying to get as much as possible for status symbols. I think some of those are in legitimate responses, was what Toby was saying, in responses to the modern dating market. And I think everyone who's watched an episode of Fresh and Fit knows that there are very materialistic women who will go on a podcast run by known misogynists, like, because it gives them a bit of clout, and maybe they can, like, you know, like, show their stuff. And so it's not like there's not a demand for these type of men, right? But what I think we should be saying is what a lot of people are alluding to, is you get in what you get out. If you are pursuing a hyper materialistic lifestyle where it's like it's all about like how you look and what car you drive and how much money you make, then realize you're going to attract people based on those things and those things alone. And if you are dissatisfied with that, that's fine. And if you're mad that, like, but I'm saying that is an incongruent statement with the supposed traditional life that a lot of people desire and a lot of people want, right? So what I'm telling them is...
Wait, are you saying that red pill is hypocritical?
I'm saying they're hypocritical, but I'm also
God
saying...
damn.
No, but I'm also saying that specifically, right? There are people that, like, bring out these behaviors, right? There are people who are with others for money. There are people...
Yeah, absolutely.
Who have higher standards... there are, like, say, like the hyper pergamous men, right, who like get all the fucks, right? Because there are, like, very attractive men who have a lot of sex, and there are a good amount of men, an increasing number of men, who are having zero sex, right? And so if there's going to be those dynamics, then it's hard in this specific play, because in some ways I would say the red pill, or at least like some of those specific materialistic aspects, I'm not talking about like all the super mega rampant misogyny, I think that's more of like the community collapsing in on itself, is that we're talking about an adaptation to a dating market. If we're saying everything's just about like how pretty your pictures are and how big your muscles are and how good you look, and say, hey, I drive a fucking giant ass car and I'm rich as fuck, like, do you want to come to the club with me? Then realize, yeah, you're probably gonna pull some people that way, because there are people that want that, and there's more people like that than they think. I would say a lot of people, depending on how your first date and how you show them off, and like if you show them a good time and you take them to a nice restaurant, they're probably gonna feel better and want to go on a second date with you, then if you said, hey, I'm kind of poor right now, you mind like maybe Ubering over or driving over to my place and we can like have some Netflix, and those things are different, and people see those different aspects in society. So I'm not saying anyone is particularly materialistic, right? But I'd say that there's a degree of what you're okay with. I prefer people, like in or around my education level, in or around like say like my working level. Like my partner's currently in grad school. I make a decent amount of money right now, so we're kind of like on that same like sort of spectrum, right? Like I'd say like socially. But like, would I be okay with dating someone who like I like had a really nice connection with and is like super pretty that I met like in a club? I've had relationships with people like that before, right? But I would say the opposite is not true on the other end. And I'd say some of this is that response, right? Where it's like, women aren't dating down as much as men in regards to income. Like, how do we respond to that?
I want to jump in on that one.
Go for it.
I am ready, but I know that Pyro raised his hand before I did, so I'm
ready for controversy. I want to have...
I've got some controversy on that.
Yeah, no, I think one of the biggest problems for me, especially when talking about MRAs, is like, I'm gonna re-say the thing I said in my opening, is like, they're right on like a couple of things, but then like the way they talk about it is so toxic. I can't ignore that. So like, I understand. I will say, like, Hanz, you're onto something where it's like they show women in the light where it's like there's a materialism in the dating market. I don't know if I'd say like it's something they're uncovering about women, or if it's just like lifting the veil of whatever bullshit idea of women these dudes have in their head. Because if you were to come up to me and tell me, hey, did you know that people are shitty? I'd say yes. If I were to come up to you and say, hey, Hanz, did you know that people of all genders can be extremely, extremely fucking shitty? You would say yes, unless you have one brain cell. Like, people know this. People know this. In the dating pool, men themselves know how toxic men can be. I know how toxic men can be in the dating pool. Women are no different. There's gonna be toxic women in the dating pool just the same as there's gonna be toxic men. So, like, I don't, like, for me, like, they're pointing that out. I'm just wondering, why the fuck does that surprise these men? That yes, just in the same way that you're toxic, you have these weird fucking standards for women, and that you have these weird fucking standards for body, so do women. They want this shit too. Okay. They want the best of the best too. But, like, that's my question. But like,
here's the problem.
Yeah, they're right about people being shitty. They're just pointing out the obvious.
No, Pyro, here's like the specific problem, and I'll let everyone else talk. I'm sorry. For this one, I would say that a lot, in recent years, there have been a lot of societal relaxation of standards for women, and the rise of online dating has proliferated an increased level of selection, like capacity for people and partners. If you wanted to, like, date a lot of people before, see a lot of people before, you had to go out to bars, you had to go out to parties, you had to see a lot of people. Now it's like I can find like who I want to fuck just by swiping, and I can find like 1,000 people in my area over the course of an hour, right? But like, so like,
I think the biggest change.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think the biggest change, the biggest standard change that you're talking about, is women are able to be more vocal and like actually choose and not have the fucking societal consequences. Yeah. In real life, before like online dating, if a fucking woman says no, tell me you don't have, like, Amanda, tell me you don't have to think about like the fucking meme, right? I think about getting hit. I think about getting the mean guy who yells at me. Online, if I swipe right, they don't have to fucking know, bro. I just didn't respond. That's easy. Sure, they're able to voice their opinions more clearly on what they want. Is that a problem?
No, that's not a problem. problem. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, great.
Yeah, the thing is, Hanz,
not a problem as long as men get to it.
I sympathize with what you're saying.
It's not a problem, but we're not relaxing the same standards for men. We're not.
No,
saying,
we're
hey,
not. But the problem that we have, Hanz, is that Red Pill doesn't alleviate any of those issues.
I agree with you. I'm saying
So like that's and the problem is absolutely there. Okay, shit's fucking wacky. But here's the problem: looking at like a Miami woman archetype of like a nasty fuck who expects you to make 200 a year and extrapolating that to the entirety of women on planet Earth.
True,
that is the
bad.
problem, right? Like the idea that I get to fuck around as much as it pleases me, while my girlfriend has to stay loyal to me. That is a problem. And
I agree with
do you know
you.
what here's like, okay, what is one problem with modern dating? Okay, like at least that I have managed to identify, okay, being a young stallion. Shit's fucking expensive, okay? I've graduated like 3 days ago, like some shit times those are kind of fucking wacky, and I'm about to begin employment, right? And shit is fucking expensive. Having an apartment is expensive. Paying for dates is expensive. Groceries are fucking expensive for some reason. Do you know what is like a brilliant way to alleviate that? Splitting the costs with somebody who will struggle alongside you. My girlfriend, like me, has a degree and she works and she is 30. My girlfriend alleviates a ton of the cost that I would otherwise have to shoulder on my own. My girlfriend, according to the standards that Red Pill put upon young men, would not be, quote unquote, desirable because she decided to focus on her career. And that seems to be a trend that Red Pillars do of putting barriers in place all the fucking time. So like you take and you identify a part of like the woman bad rhetoric, right? So dating down is a good example of this. Every study we have done since the first one on the topic of dating down clearly points out that as time goes on, women are more and more willing to do it. Women are still not at the numbers.
Yeah, that's what Red Pill says.
Right, that is good, but that's what I mean. But the thing is, I didn't find that out being deep in the Red Pill. I found that shit out after I've already clawed my way out of that fucking cesspool of sin. And that is the problem that I have.
Of sin. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what it is, though. Like, we're going in a good direction, but we don't have enough good role models where we can have these conversations and we can point people in a better direction. Because, like, it seems like fucking Red Pill has monopoly in this shit.
Yeah, and then that's fine.
Well, they're just starting out and they're running their thing around and doing their stuff.
Amanda was trying to jump in, and then we kept talking over her.
I mean, it's all good. Well, I mean, no, I don't like being talked over. That's for sure. That's for fucking sure. But this is the internet world. But as far as it goes, I mean, can I just be honest with you guys? Like, there's a lot of marketing involved in dating these days. You know, like at the end of the day, we all want to like say we want to point. You know, women are doing this, men are doing that. But at the end of the day, especially as someone who just came out of some real specific tasks of how do we get more people to engage in a marketing capacity for this dating app was a question that I've been asked. And one thing that I've sort of taken away from observing online dating platforms is that there is nothing genuine about Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, Hinge, whatever the fuck that you're on when it's basically a grocery store of ladies or men, and you're just basically choosing who you're going to go with the same way that you're choosing like which toothpaste you're going to use. So I think at the end of the day as well, we have a lot of expectations and ideas about what we think people should do and what people shouldn't do, and we get these ideas a lot of the times from fucking marketing. So at the end of the day, I think everybody's kind of talking out of their ass on this topic because nobody actually sits down and gets to know anybody, because you don't have time to if you're just looking at a fucking picture and 3 emojis is not really representative of a human being from anything. So when we were dating back in the day, I wasn't, of course, you know, none of us, not everybody, but I was a baby, I wasn't born, but like dating didn't exist in the same capacity even in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, whatever. Like a lot of dating now is just mitigated from personalities and the ways that we present ourselves in a digital sense, but that's not reflective of who we are in every capacity. So it's no wonder that like people on the men's side are saying that women are full of shit, and then women are on the women's side are saying men are full of shit. Like, I don't know. I guess, does this make me gay? I don't know. I just like to get to know people first before.
Yo, I was just about to ask, like, do y'all niggas? Do y'all motherfuckers not like, you know what, fuck, do y'all niggas not talk to each other like when y'all
Yeah.
match on someone? Cause like for me, I like to make this joke that like if you're gonna get to know me and date me, you gotta go through the 2 weeks it takes for the paperwork to get to City Hall, and then City Hall has to mail it to the state capitol, and then the state capitol has to mail it back to me because we have to have that conversation first, and then we meet, and then we start like, do people not actually talk? Cause like that's the confused. Like I hear the stories and it's like,
I'll be honest. Online specifically, sorry, Toby, I know you want to jump in. Specifically for like my experience with Tinder, again, very like specific experience. A lot of Tinder, and this is corroborated with some of my friends as well. So feel free to tell me like if I'm wrong here. A lot of my Tinder dates, if I'm not going to see that person in like 3 days, it's probably not happening. Like I very rarely meet someone on Tinder and then like never see them or like don't get a number, because the big thing about Tinder is like the initial spark, saying like, okay, hey, I see you, we both clearly find each other attractive in some way, and then we're gonna see if we mesh in person. Whereas one second, but like the problem specifically is that this is very different, as Amanda said, than how we used to do this. And like before, you might say someone might not find you conventionally attractive, but like they meet you at a party or they meet you at a bar, you could be witty, you could be funny, like you could be dancing and like having good energy in a way that you can't portray in pictures. And that is a problem for a lot of guys who might not be conventionally attractive or know how to take pictures of each other. So like there are certain barriers and again, I agree with Chris and I agree with Pyro where it's like, oh yeah, I 100% agree that telling men to get good is 100% valid, but at the same time we can't also say none of these problems are real because like we're working on some of them, or all these problems are real.
We have to acknowledge certain, like we have to acknowledge certain biological realities
out here.
Like we have to acknowledge that the certain problems are there. But
I do believe that.
Wait, Toby's been waiting.
In your opening,
My man
you
Toby.
said that you were shitting on
misogyny and this
fucking
hypergamy, I
everything
think,
to
are two
moves,
very,
but you're
very
using
I'm going on for a second. I love y'all.
hookup
Shut up.
location.
Wait,
Really?
Wait. All right, so I want to clear air out the room a little bit here. First, Toby has been very patient. I do want him to go. Then Twisted, write it down. Make sure that you can go full offensive here in a moment. And then I know the rest of y'all wanted to get on this. Like, if I can't hear myself think, then we have a problem. So go ahead, Toby.
I want to slow it down a lot here, because when you start to talk about like the starting point of something, and then you have the middle point of something, and then you get to the end looks very different from how things start out. And I understand that, right? So no matter where we go, unless I have like a broader picture of what's happening, I can't really communicate with anybody or come to terms anywhere. And so I understand and I know that there's the misogyny and the hypergamy, which have been mentioned. And the misogyny in the red pill community is big because they've concentrated together. But I learned from the red pill community to look past that and to see this as a man bitching about women, and that's how he's asking for help in a very bad way. And so I'm looking for like to move through the complaining, to be able to do something about it then, and then he doesn't have to be misogyny anymore, because honestly that level of hatred is just a lot of work for people. Now the hypergamy thing, if that makes sense with everyone. Now the hypergamy thing, it was like, well, okay, so women will branch swing safely given the chance every single time. And I heard that statement, I was like, oh, so she's just like using me until she gets to something better? It's like, no, slow down. Safely branch swing, because she isn't expected to commit to you and marry you for life in the first 10 minutes of meeting you. She's meeting people and looking to learn and grow and find better and better people until she can find someone that she can get with, and learns to manage that as well too, because her needs are getting met in that relationship. And, that's kind of how, whatever they say, I can go through all the red pill stuff and slowly pull out how it is said very misogynistically, and then what they're pointing to and how we're trying to get there as men. And that's where it really that community really hasn't matured enough to do that a lot, but eventually it'll get there, probably like 10, 15, 20 years away from that.
All right.
Well, I killed the banner.
I want to.
Toby's base. That's pretty cool. I like that.
So I'm gonna roll it back to what Hanz was saying. I believe in your opening you said something about why are men fucking everything that moves, yet you're using Tinder to meet people.
Yeah.
I do believe that Tinder is used for hookups. Wouldn't that be fucking everything that moves? So
No.
a whole lot of
There
hypocrisy there.
It was at
there
this
are
moment that he
moving
knew.
okay, there are moving
He
things
fucked
on
up.
Tinder that I do not decide to fuck. When you can slide it without having sex with the phone or
Right.
But like specifically, right? You're right. And I alluded to this in my opening statement about like the inherent contradictions. I mean, like Chris and Pyro have like done much better about this than me because I'm trying to give like the opposite side for a lot of this. Is that for a lot of men and a lot of like people in this space, we're gonna fuck everything that moves. Okay, we understand that. We're dudes. We're pretty horny. Like I get that. Like most of us are, unless you're asexual, right? Which is totally fine. But at the same time, we want to have like that one person that we want to settle down with and have a good like quiet domestic life with, and realize and we have very specific, I would say, standards. Or the Red Pill community pushes these standards about like what that acceptable life is, and look what that.
But I would not say that everybody wants that. At this point in my life, I do not want that. I had 14 years of that, and I'm freaking loving being the single guy again. I have no responsibilities other than myself. All I have to care about is myself and my well-being. I don't have to worry about anybody else.
I twisted. I fuck with that 100%, and all the more power to you as far as I am concerned. The predominant target of Red Pillers aren't men in their 40s after divorce. It's people between 13 and 17. That's where the problem's at, because they teach unrealistic standards to kids who just want to have somebody to love.
Well, I said,
these men are targeted because they're depressed and sad, not because they're like adults.
Yeah, that's not quite true, Chris. 13 to 17-year-olds aren't looking to get married, if that's what you're meaning.
No,
they're
but
looking
when
to
you
get
start
started.
when you start falling down the Red Pill cycle, it tends not to be because you're a self-made man at the age of 13 with your mansions and sports cars.
Yeah.
It's because you've seen a video of Andrew Tate showing how brilliant that life is, and you fall down like wanting that, and then they tend to bombard you with the incredibly sexist rhetoric that follows, and a lot of that rhetoric is what ends up with you being unhappy because they put arbitrary standards between you and people you could potentially date. Because of the implication that, like,
a lot of these people fall into this thing, though, like, not because they necessarily want to, but because they clicked on, like, one video, and then it took them down the rabbit hole because...
Yeah, and it's very appealing, right? It's like, it's so easy to fall down that rabbit hole. Like, who doesn't want to have a fucking mansion, sports cars, 70 porn stars around you, and fuck everything that moves? Like, that sounds based.
It's about education, then. It's like, it's about education, and it's about calling out the bullshit.
I mean, what's wrong
that
with
is the
sports
bad
cars?
side
Come
to
on.
Red
I
Pill.
think I just want to say, like, because like Cry said something in his said something in his opening, and like despite his Britishness, like I have to give him like the prop for this one.
Based.
Like, yeah, one of the biggest and like this is why I gotta have this conversation, because like I want to help try and solve the issue, because like again, there are some valid points in there. But the way they go about offering their quote-unquote solutions, he said it perfectly. They prey on these really depressed dudes who aren't in the best of positions. And then they just drive them down the wrong path. Like, the study, I'm going to grab a link for it and put it in your chat, Tiberius, because I'm just, like, going through it and referencing so much. But, like, the study just references it as, like, this online space that is occupied by... It's, like, characterized as a fatalistic, misogynistic echo chamber in which misery and failure are celebrated. If that's what these groups are, bro, think about the colorful language in an academic study, bro. I'm gonna read it again. The incel sphere, i.e. the online space occupied by incels, can be characterized as a fatalistic, misogynistic echo chamber in which misery and failure are celebrated. So, like... can acknowledge that they have certain points, but like, Jesus fucking Christ, if these are your spaces where these points are talking about, where like the red pill and the black pill are coming from, holy shit.
I think I can give an analogy on this that I like kind of helped me move like fucking away from that space, and it is the analogy of our very own beautiful fucking Titanic, okay? Anyone can get on the life raft when that fucker's going down, but not everyone is going to be able to get on that life raft. And if your entire ideology builds your self-worth based on whether you can or cannot make it to that life raft, 90% of you are going to get fucked. And in the same sense, anyone can become incredibly rich and successful by the standards of Redpill. Anyone can, but not everyone will. Vast majority of the people will not. So if your self-worth relies on whether you have managed to achieve that standard, you are gonna get fucked.
So here's.
I remember reading this. Oh, go ahead.
Here's part of the problem for how we deal with that and deal with this. The traditional concept of masculinity, I think we can agree that there's some bad elements to it. I think we can agree that like it oppresses women in various ways that makes it harder for them. I would say a large problem is that for men, we don't have universally accepted and beloved positive archetypes anymore. And I would say that for men, that if as lefties, right, or as progressives, if we're trying to build a positive future and a positive aspect for men, we have to be able to give them what that looks like in that image, which I would say is quite difficult. But at the same time, we're not really providing that to them or giving them the ways for it to look. And part of that is specifically because a lot of people, I would say, are pretty fucking dumb. And not dumb in that like they're, you know, like terrible people or anything like that. It's that most people do better when like there's certain lanes of like what they feel like they can put themselves into. People inherently categorize themselves in various ways and follow certain things, and that sort of structure helps people work or helps people move through life. And I think it's been wonderful that we've like expanded those barriers, especially for women and in more progressive online spaces for men, right? It's great that men can be gay now, that men can be more effeminate, that men can like be housemakers or cook, or like homemakers, right? But I would say that those archetypes of manhood are not universally accepted at this point in time. And until we can get it to a point where men are allowed to be like that, and we have that closer to a quality standing where it's more okay for women to be workers and men to be homemakers. And we've achieved that for women by and large, and that's awesome fucking based. But I would say on the other end, we have to achieve that for men, and it's not about, and it can't be about them being a loser when they do that. Because I think a lot of us would be like, okay, like a woman works from home, that's fine, or a woman like is a homemaker, that's fine. If otherwise, you'd say that's a deadbeat dad. He doesn't have a job. He's laying around the house. Oh, he cooks and cleans? Oh, wow, that's fucking amazing, dude. Are you taking care of your family in any substantial way? So I think the best thing we can do is we have to give some sort of structure to these younger men that isn't toxic to bring them away from that. Because right now we're telling them what they can't be. And a lot of ways we have to tell them what they can be.
I disagree. I think when we talk about masculinity and how it can be toxic in its traits, how it affects women is only one half of the conversation, and that's the half everyone gets stuck on because, you know, men versus women, we love to have that debate. The second half of this conversation that is only ever talked about by fucking video essayists and their fucking high-ass snotty chairs of 2-hour-long videos is how toxic masculinity it's how toxic masculinity affects men negatively. The impacts of being told from day one, yo, you're not allowed to emote or else you a little bitch-ass nigga. We're gonna hit you if you cry. How, like, even with women, how they look at dudes and how they pick dudes, it's like, yo, if my man cries, if my man doesn't do certain this, that, and the other, like, we're gonna look down on him. We're gonna call him shit that's not less of a... These aspects of toxic masculinity that men have learned to try and integrate into themselves over the decades are parts that in part destroy us in ourselves. I think that pathway of teaching it like that, like, yo, these things aren't just necessarily just toxic to women, they're toxic to yourself. You not being able to process your emotions is a problem. If a simple disagreement with a woman or someone results in a fucking physical altercation where you punch a wall, that's a problem. You don't know how to regulate your emotions. You know, it's not because, you know, you're evil or anything, but like that's something that men aren't really taught how to fucking do. We're not taught how to relegate these fucking properly.
And I agree.
Just the regulation
and, like,
of
keep it quiet
is one thing, but what I'm pulling from the Red Pill is these are the first people I came across that like studied what sexual strategy was. What's happening? What is actually happening in the psychology of sexuality and dating and meeting people and how people have sex and so forth and how that process works. So I'm just trying to pull those things out of the Red Pill and then move on to more healthy stuff.
And I think that if you do that, that is brilliant. I fucking wished I was able to do that when I started falling down that fucking rabbit hole. But it seems to be the case that like most of us can't do that. Like most people don't just like identify the good elements and then get rid of the bad elements and just live their principles based on those. Because most people who fall down that rabbit hole, they don't really have good relationships with women. They don't really know what women are like on average, right? So you end up in like this really weird fucking space where people like Andrew Tate, right, or people like Fresh and Fit will influence how you see women. And even if that goes against the women that you interact with on a daily basis, you will, for some, at least that happened to me, for some fucking bizarre reason, I will still default to their understanding of this. And what Has said earlier, I agree with big time, if I'm understanding Hanz correctly. The problem that I have currently on sort of my end of this, where I will talk to somebody who is deeply in the red pill, and I will, like, he will bring up an example of like a woman doing something fucked up. And I'll be like, yeah, you know what, mate? That sounds fucking weird. She shouldn't have done that. She is the one who did like the bad here. And I actually understand your frustration. And then the response I get is like, hell yeah, my man. All the fucking bitches are like that. And I'm like, no, hold on. That's not what I just fucking said, right? That is not how that shit works. But for some reason, that is exactly where the mind goes to. That is where it went for me back when I was in that in that space. And I acknowledge that I might be coming off as a little bit fucking spiteful, okay? And I'm coming off as very blue pill, which is doesn't usually happen. So that's kind of fucking fun.
Well, that's the thing I try to move them through is when they do that, I'm drawing on their ability. Okay, this fucker's still talking to me. I can still move forward with this, right? Because I can move them from being misogynistic and bitchy to just being bitchy about it, and then move on to something more constructive. And yeah, we do need more people like that. And the space, the red pill space at least, is still quite new, and so those people are barely just starting to emerge right now.
I don't know if I would agree that this space is new. I think the way we call it, the red pill, sure, that is a fairly new phenomena. What the red pill originated as is what the fucking pickup artistry community used to be. Like, they've been around for like fucking, like, what, 20, 30 years we're talking now?
Evolution,
like, it's not really
evolution of the manosphere.
Yeah, they've been around since the 90s. But unfortunately,
since Seinfeld.
Well, unfortunately, this is the point where I got to put a pin in this particular part of the conversation. So, making this very quick and easy is that this is the end of this particular topic. However, we do have an open panel after this. However, some of our panelists will be sticking around for us, and you can feel free to either agree and simp for them or totally tell them that they're pieces of shit. I don't care which, as long as you are in my community and you're vetted. But some of you have to go, and unfortunately, I believe Hanz is the first to join or to leave us this evening. So give yourself a wonderful outro and let people know where they can find you.
Thanks, Tiberius. Really appreciate this conversation, everybody. I'm sorry for all the spicy, terrible things I said to anybody. I hope I didn't hurt anyone's feelings too badly. That was a joke. This was a really cordial conversation. But again, thanks so much. I had a really good time. If you like my shit, you can find me at Hanz here on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. You can join my Discord, all that sort of shit. But really, I'm happy we got this far in the conversation. I wish it could happen longer, but I have to go live my trad white bread values and go play video games with my two brothers. So I love everybody. You're all great, and you all have a good night. Okay.
See you.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you, sir.
Good night,
have
everybody.
a good one, buddy.
Does anyone else need?
All right, folks. All right, boys. It's everybody. Thank you so much for the lovely stream. I will go play video. Okay. But if you liked that panel conversation, I recommend all of you go watch the after. Support other creators in the community and all that sort of shit. So, everybody, thank you so much for tonight. I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed my first foray back into politics. I gotta go do some family time now, and it's gonna be great. So, I love you all, and I'll see you. I'll probably try and stream tomorrow, but I'm not sure. Got a lot of stuff to do. Got a lot of laundry and other cleaning to do. So, but we'll figure it out together. Have a good night, everybody.